Hey everyone, thanks so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Luffy tries to live a normal school life while hiding the truth about his powerful family. A millionaire father, a strict principal grandfather, and a famous singer brother. Keeping this secret is his way of escaping expectations. But when Nami transfers in, her sharp instincts slowly uncover the truth behind Luffy's quiet nature. As trust grows between them, Luffy must decide whether staying hidden is worth losing someone who sees him for who he truly is. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is Irremovable Stains by Unicorn Popcorn. Foin. Respect to author.
Chapter 26, They're Your Friends. Do you think Nami's gonna be in school today? Luffy asked as he and Zoro were walking to school. The car accident had happened in Wednesday and it was Monday now. Nami hadn't shown up in school after it. You've been asking that every day, Sanji pointed out as he caught up with them, and yes, I think Nami-san will be okay already. What's up with her anyway? I heard her sister hasn't been in school either, Usopp asked as he and Chopper joined them. It's not our business to tell you guys, Zoro said before Luffy could make the situation worse. Luffy had told him and they had decided to shut up about it since it wasn't their business in the first place anyway. So you know, Marimo? Sanji asked, narrowing his eyes. Spit it out. It's none of your business, curly brow, Zoro told, dodging a kick aimed at his face. You wanna fight? Fighting first thing in the morning. Don't you two ever stop. They turned around as they heard the voice only to see Nami and Nojiko walking towards them. Nami saw, Nojiko cha, you're back, Sanji yelled, forgetting his fight with Zoro immediately. Yay, we're back, Nojiko said with a sigh, walking past the blonde. I'm going ahead, Nami. Okay, Nami called to her, turning to her friends. So, did I miss something important while I was away? No, Usopp said, asking, where were you anyway? We haven't seen you since Wednesday. We decided to visit our hometown, Nami said. Before anyone could question further she said, let's go, I don't want to be late. The others shrugged, deciding to drop it for now. XXXXX. Luffy and his friends sat on the roof, having chanced the place they eat lunch. The reason for this was that many of the girls had started to bother them on lunch breaks, trying to get closer to Ace. You know we could just ditch him and the girls would stop bothering us, Koza said, earning a glare from Ace. I wouldn't mind ditching him, Sanji agreed, annoyed by the fact that all the girls swooned over Ace. He could sing, so what? Then why don't you two go away? Margaret told them, it's not Ace's fault he's hot. The others laughed at how red Ace's face got thanks to Margaret's words. Many thought he was a playboy, but his brother's friends would have none of that. By now they knew he was way too shy to even ask a girl out. He didn't do well with women even though most of them swooned over him. In short, he was good with people, but if a girl got too close he was in big trouble. Hot or not, he's pathetic, Zoro said with a smirk. I bet even Luffy goes on a date before him. Everyone, even Luffy who didn't realize he was being insulted, laughed. I'm not that pathetic, Ace muttered, looking down. It's not like you have anyone either, Zoro, Nami pointed out, a sly smirk forming on her face. Or do you? Before Zoro could answer, Ace told, nah, he doesn't. You see, for years he's been head over heels on a guy called. Before Ace could finish, Zoro elbowed him hard, glaring. That's all in the past, he said, making Ace roll his eyes. Of course, he said, but you two did sleep together once, didn't you? Everyone looked at Zoro who was starting to get pissed about how Ace kept talking about his love life. We were drunk, Zoro muttered with a scowl, and it was only one time. Sure, Nami said, sharing a smirk with Margaret. It was, Zoro repeated. Those bitches were getting on his nerves. Yeah, we believe you, Nami said. Unlike Margaret, she didn't break down laughing. Nami, hey, don't worry, we believe you, she said with a sly smirk. You weren't good enough for him, so there was only one time. What? Zoro yelled as the others started laughing. That's not how it went. Yeah, he had another, Luffy started, but Zoro stopped him by bonging him on the head. Shut up. He had another man, Margaret finished, but to her surprise Ace shook his head. Nah, he said, a woman. He's bi. Ace nodded, smirking as Zoro glared at him. There's nothing to be ashamed of, Zoro, Ace assured. The woman you lost him to is pretty hot after all. Shut it, virgin boy, Zoro snapped, completely turning the tables. Everyone shut up immediately and Ace's face went bright red. Quote. I did not see that coming, Sanji muttered, making the others nod in agreement. So what? Ace said as he had somewhat gotten over his embarrassment. I think the ones here that aren't virgins can be counted with fingers of one hand. No. The others looked down, up, anywhere but at Ace. Thought so, he said. We done with this conversation. The others nodded and everyone returned silently to their food. XXXXX. After school Luffy caught up with Nami, wanting to ask her something. Nami. Yeah, Nami asked, cheerful as ever, but her smile fell when Luffy asked, how's your mom? A long silence followed and Luffy started to wonder if he had made Nami mad. Right when he was about to apologize she answered, she's in coma. Luffy nodded, saying, I'm sorry. Even he could tell now was better to pretend he knew what it meant when someone was in coma. She wasn't dead tough, that much he knew. I need to remember to ask from Chopper what it means later. It's okay, she's strong, Nami said with a small smile that soon turned into devious smirk, making Luffy gulp. So, who else knows about your dad? Luffy paled, having hoped that he didn't need to go through this conversation. However, he knew that not answering would just get him in trouble, so he answered, I told Zoro a while ago, and of course Ace knows, too. Not anyone else? Nami asked. After receiving a nod she asked, why? I just never had a chance to tell them and it'd be weird to tell them now, Luffy said, but Nami didn't really buy it. Or you're just afraid they'll treat you differently when they find out you're a millionaire's son. When Luffy didn't answer, Nami knew she was right, you should give them more credit. Huh, they're your friends, Nami said, crossing her arms, you should trust them. After that she walked away, not waiting for Luffy's answer. He sighed, starting to understand why Zoro didn't like Nami. She could be so annoying sometimes, but she was right, he should trust his friends. It was easier said than done, tough. Luffy never really cared about people's pasts and he didn't want people caring about his past either. So, what were you two talking about? Luffy turned around as he heard this, coming face to face with Nami's older sister Nojiko. Well, your mother, Luffy replied, causing Nojiko to sigh. Walking over to Luffy she said, you do realize she's just faking, right? She's not okay like she says. I know, Luffy said, looking at her with an unreadable expression. What do you want me to do? Nothing really, Nojiko said. Her smile faded as she told, Nami doesn't usually talk about the things that bother her, but if she does then please be there for her. Yeah, I will, Luffy said, adjusting his hat. What about you? Are you okay? I'm fine, Nojiko said, dismissing the question with a wave of her hand. I gotta go now, try not to let Nami babble out all your secrets. Luffy waved as Nojiko walked away. He didn't realize until much later that Nojiko had heard their whole conversation. Chapter 27, The Date Game, Part 1. Oi, Chopper, Luffy said, poking the younger boy as they did their homework at the kitchen table. Sighing, Chopper said, Luffy, I already explained your math homework to you as well as I could without telling you the actual answers. You're not getting more help, not from me. That's not what I was going to ask, Luffy said. What does it mean that someone is in coma? Chopper looked up from his textbook, wondering why Luffy was asking that. It didn't stop him from answering tough. Well, coma is a state of unconsciousness lasting more than 6 hours, in which a person cannot be awakened, fails to respond normally to painful stimuli, light, or sound, lacks a normal sleep-wake cycle, and does not initiate voluntary actions. Get it? Nope, not a word, Luffy admitted, making Chopper sigh. He didn't think so. In short, it's like a sleep you might never wake up from. Oh, okay, Luffy said, actually understanding now, looking away as Chopper asked, why do you ask? No reason, Luffy said, sweating and whistling innocently. Chopper saw through the lie and was about to question Luffy but got no chance to do so as he said, I'm gonna go see what Zoro's doing, and was off. Chopper shrugged, deciding to drop it. It was probably just a word Luffy had heard from somewhere and was curious to know what it meant, or at least Chopper hoped so. XXXXX. It was Friday again, and the week had gone past uneventfully, but that was about to change as Nojiko walked over to the usual group that sat on the roof, eating their lunches. Do you guys have plans for the weekend? She asked, sitting down between Nami and Vivi. The others shook their heads, but Ace told he and Luffy had plans for Saturday. What are you guys doing? Chopper asked. Ace glanced at Luffy before carefully answering, we're going to see a friend of ours. Why does it seem that you just corrected yourself? Koza asked, narrowing his eyes. Cuz he did, Sanji said, and then all eyes were on Ace. Spit it out, singer. Who cares? Nami said, having an idea of what it might be about. So Nojiko, what do you have in mind? Ace gave Nami a grateful smile as she managed to turn everyone's attention to Nojiko. Taking a bite of his bread he decided to listen what she has to say as well. How about we all play a little game? Nojiko asked with a smirk. Alarm bells started to ring in Zoro's head as he saw the same kind of smirk make its way to Nami's face. You mean the date game? The date game? Zoro questioned, not liking what it sounded like. Yep, Nojiko said cheerfully, everyone who takes a part in the game take one card and those two who have the same color go on a date together. So, who's in? I'm in, Sanji yelled immediately, but paled when Margaret asked, doesn't that mean that two people of the same gender might end up on a date together? Of course, Nojiko said, Nami and I are playing, that's for sure. So, who else is in? I think I'll pass, Chopper said. No one bothered to argue against that. The boy, despite being a genius, wasn't really there yet. I'll pass too, Kaya said, making Usopp agrees with her. The hell are you two chickening out for? Koza asked, glaring at Usopp as he smoothly answered, well, unlike some people, we're not that desperate. We have each other. We're not desperate, it's just for fun, Nojiko said, asking again, I take it everyone else is in. Good. Just hold on a moment, Usopp said, there's 9 of you, one has to go without a date. I already thought of that and I do have a solution, Nojiko said, I'll just put in 3 red cards. Threesome, Koza asked, raising an eyebrow, nice. Nojiko rolled her eyes, mixing the cards and handing everyone one. So, mine's green, who am I going out with? She asked, showing the light green card to others. Not me, Zoro said after checking his card. Pass, Margaret said. With a shrug Koza showed his card to the others, voicing his thoughts, well it could have been worse. Why the hell are you looking at me when you say that? Nami hissed, but couldn't hit Koza since Nojiko and Vivi were between them. Mine's white, Luffy called out, tired of waiting. But not mine, Margaret said. I'm safe as well, Sanji said, sighing in relief. Shit, Nami said, paling. It was now clear who held another white card, well, could be worse. You're just trying to annoy me, Koza said as he noticed Nami looking at him. Vivi laughed nervously, hoping that her friends wouldn't start a fight. So who else has a red card? She asked, showing her card. I do, Margaret said at the same time with Ace. Lucky guy, Sanji muttered before realization hit him. Hey, doesn't that mean that the other with a yellow card beside me is? Fuck no, Zoro yelled, throwing his yellow card on the ground, the Marimo. Hell yeah boys, rules are rules. Nojiko told, clearly satisfied with the situation, unless you two have no honor of course, people like that don't usually respect rules. Nojiko knew she had said the right thing when the boys stiffened. Don't really have a choice, do we? Zoro asked, sighing in defeat as the rest, minus Sanji of course, laughed. Looks like we don't, Sanji said, you better not try anything then, Marimo. Zoro tsked, saying, I'd rather swallow 1,000 needles than do that, or in fact, make it 10,000. Maybe I should bring you 10,001 needles in a tray and see what happens, Nami suggested, making Zoro glare at her, just focus on planning your own date, you witch. Zoro, Chopper said, getting Zoro's attention, you shouldn't eat needles, that's dangerous. The other's sweat dropped, I'll keep that in mind. XXXXX. As Nojiko walked out of her last class of the day she walked past Zoro, only to be stopped by his hand on her shoulder. She looked up at him curiously, having a feeling that whatever he was going to say it had something to do with the date game since they never talked to each other. What, you gave the white cards to Luffy and Nami on purpose, didn't you? Zoro asked, going straight to the point. Nojiko was about to deny it but it seemed that her face gave her off as Zoro said, thought so. Nojiko sighed, knowing she had lost. Just don't tell them that, she said, Nami's pretty down and needs something else to think about, and she comes along with that idiot just fine, so why not? Are you sure she's the one who needs something else to think about? Nojiko looked away, making Zoro continue, isn't that why you wanted to play this stupid game in the first place? Not really any of your business, is it? Nojiko asked, anyway, don't tell Nami about this, okay? Just one more thing, Zoro said when Nojiko was about to leave, did you decide all the other pairs too? Nojiko snorted, saying, if I had I wouldn't paired myself with Sandhead. Zoro snorted at the nickname, remembering how Sanji had used it before. Fair enough. Chapter 28, The Date Game, Part 2. Is there a reason you invited us over or are you just gonna serve us tea and cookies? Ace asked as he and Luffy sat around Sabo's kitchen table, munching on cookies. Sabo took in a deep breath, saying, I need your help guys. Really? Ace asked in surprise, I can understand you ask help from me, but what good could our weak, dumb little brother do? Well, I need help from you. Luffy's just your tag along, Ace nodded, satisfied with the answer. Luffy, still busy munching on the cookies, didn't even notice the whole conversation, so, what do you need me for? Well you see, I need your advice on how to confess my feelings to special someone. Sabo said, making Ace snort. Their cool-headed, genius brother had girl problems. Well, maybe he shouldn't be so surprised since Sabo had been head over heels on this special someone for quite a while now. So you have girl problems. Ace summarized with a lazy smirk. When Sabo nodded Luffy swallowed the cookies in his mouth, directing a question to Ace, is Robin mad at Sabo for something? Lou, weren't you listening at all Luffy? Ace asked, cutting Sabo off, he needs help in confessing his love for her. Hey, oh, Luffy voiced out, can't he just go to her and say, I love you? Guys, well he could, but I think he doesn't have the guts to do so. Guys, seriously, I see, Luffy said with a laugh. God damn you guys, pay attention. Thank you, Sabo said as his brothers finally shut up and turned their attention back to him. Now, who the hell said I was talking about Robin? Luffy and Ace glanced at each other before facing Sabo again, saying, "We know you were." "Of course I was," Sabo yelled, "but is it really so obvious that even you guys can tell?" "Yeah," Luffy said, but Ace saw the double meaning behind those words. "The hell do you mean by, even you guys?" Sabo ignored the question, saying, "If you guys know, the Robin probably does as well." "Probably, so what's the problem?" Ace asked. "Just go to her and let your actions speak for you." Sabo raised an eyebrow, actually little interested about this advice. "Meaning, just go and kiss her," Ace said. "If she kisses back, the feelings are mutual. If she slaps you, snaps your neck or does something else Robin like you're dumped, but at least you'll get it over with." "But Ace, it's Robin," Luffy said. "Even if she did like Sabo she might slap him when kissed." "For once Luffy's right, Ace," Sabo said, letting his head fall on the table. "That's how she is, can you come up with anything less painful?" "Let me think about it," Ace answered, and the three brothers started to wonder what would be a good way to confess to the special one. XXXXX. "This sucks," Zoro muttered as he walked down the road with Sanji. "For once I agree with you, Marimo," the blonde said, blowing out the last smokes from his cigar, immediately lighting another one. "Anyone would have been better than you." "The feeling's mutual," Zoro said with a sigh. "I need a beer." "In the middle of the day?" Sanji asked. "Shitty drunk." "Shut it, nicotine addict," Zoro shot back. "You want to fight?" Sanji asked. And so this supposed date turned into a street fight. XXXXX. The doorbell rang, and Nojiko went to open the door only to find Koza with a bouquet of flowers. "You sure are taking the game seriously," she pointed out with a chuckle. Koza rolled his eyes, handing the bouquet to Nojiko. "I was half hoping your sister would open the door." Bet the look on her face would have been priceless. "Definitely," Nojiko said, tossing the bouquet inside carelessly and taking her coat. Winter was coming, and it was already cold outside. "So, where are we going?" "I was thinking about going to the movies, don't care which one," Koza said, "but no romantic dramas." "I can live with that," Nojiko said with a shrug. "Shall we go then?" Koza asked, offering Nojiko his arm. She snorted, taking it. "This is gonna be an interesting day after all. XXXXX. I'd like to see you do better, Marimo," Sanji said smugly to Zoro, who just rolled his eyes. They were bowling and Sanji had taken down 8 of the 10 clubs. Zoro admitted that it wasn't a bad result, but he knew that he himself could do better. And that he did, for he got a full dumb, all of the clubs falling over. "CHK, you got lucky," Sanji said, but Zoro disagreed. "It's not luck but skill," he smirked, "not that you'd understand anything about that." "What was that, Marimo?" Sanji asked, narrowing his eyes. "Do you have problems with your hearing, curly brow?" Zoro asked in return. "You'll regret that. They just couldn't stop fighting even for one day. XXXXX. If it's too hard to say, you could write a letter to her. You're good at writing," Ace suggested to his brother, who had turned down every idea of how to confess to Robin so far. "Nah, she'd think that I was pathetic for not having the guts to say it in front of her," Sabo said, head still down. "But Robin likes reading," Luffy pointed out, but then Ace realized, "But she isn't really the type for love letters, is she?" "Definitely not," Sabo said. "Say, Sabo, yeah, do you think she likes you back?" Ace asked, causing Sabo to look up. "If I knew we wouldn't be having this conversation." "Why not?" Luffy asked, making Ace sigh at his stupidity. "Because if she did like him he wouldn't be afraid of being rejected," Ace told, "and if he knew that she doesn't like him he wouldn't bother trying." "Exactly," Sabo said. "But if you knew Robin doesn't like you, you'd just have to do something that'd make her like you, right?" Luffy asked, making his brother stare at him. "Well, it was that easy in theory, but in reality. It's not that simple, Lou." "Why not?" Quote. Sabo stayed silent, having no idea how to explain it. "Looks like we have quests," the boys froze, looking at the doorway. They had not heard that Robin had already come back home. "Yo, Robin, long time no see," Luffy called out. "Didn't we see each other last week, Luffy?" Robin asked, laughing as Luffy questioned. "We did. So, what were you three talking about with so serious faces?" she asked, making Sabo pale. Luffy better not slip anything unnecessary. "About Ace's date tomorrow," the straw hat wearing teen said. The sweat on his face gave him away to Robin, making the woman realize that he was lying, but the look on Ace's face told that the older boy did have a date tomorrow. "I suppose I'll concentrate on that first." "Luffy," Ace hissed, "weren't we supposed to talk about the date between you and Nami tomorrow?" Sabo stared at them in shock. Had Luffy learned how to lie, or did those two actually have dates? "So Ace, who are you going on a date with?" Robin asked, voicing Sabo's thoughts. Before Ace could answer, Luffy told, "Margaret and Vivi." Sabo nearly choked on his own spit, asking, "How the hell did you manage to get 2 girls?" "Yes, especially since your brother here hasn't gotten even one," Robin said with a teasing smirk that just screamed challenge. Sabo narrowed his eyes at her, saying, "Well, I just simply appreciate quality over number." Sabo looked at Robin with a smug smirk, waiting for her to come up with a comeback to that. It seems that she didn't tough as she asked Ace, care to tell me more about your dates? It's not really a date, Ace said with a sigh. A girl from my class insisted that we play this date game, and... Oh, Sabo and Robin said together, obviously knowing the game. They looked at each other before quickly looking away. Say no more, that's one annoying game. Did you two end up on a date together while playing? Ace guessed, knowing he was right as Sabo looked away and Robin's eyes narrowed. Gulping, the freckles-faced teen changed the subject. Anyway, Luffy's going on a date with his crush. Oh really? Sabo asked, preparing to tease their little brother, raising an eyebrow as the said guy shrugged. I don't know, he said, I haven't had a crush before so I don't know what it feels like to have one. Right, Sabo said, sweat dropping as he supposed that it was Luffy-like to not get embarrassed about things like these, but you do like her, no? Yeah, she's my friend. But you like her more than Margaret, Nojiko or Vivi, right? Ace asked, getting a nod, then you probably have a crush on her. But I don't stutter when she's around like Sabo sometimes does with Luffy. Sabo screamed with a red face, making Ace laugh, shut it. Oh, Robin voiced her interest, and who is this person you stutter to? No one, Sabo snapped, thanking the heavens he didn't stutter now of all times. Anyway, try not to fall asleep while on date, Ace. At least I have a date, don't I Sabo? Ace said, earning a glare from his brother, and so does Luffy. Do you want us to introduce you to someone who we know? Out, both of you, were Sabo's answer. The two laughed. Before leaving Ace called over his shoulder, hey Robin, introduce Sabo to someone will ya? He's so lonely. You're so dead when I see you next time, Sabo muttered, doing his best to ignore Robin's laughing. Those two weren't of any help at all. XXXXX. That could have been better, Nojiko muttered as she and Koza walked down the road, eating the last of their popcorn. The movie Nojiko had chosen turned out not to be so good after all, but she wouldn't really call it waste of time, either. Yeah, Koza agreed, taking the very last popcorn before tossing the empty bag into a nearby trash can, but I've seen worse. Me too, Nojiko said, and after that the two stayed silent. It wasn't really that uncomfortable one, but it was still awkward. Neither knew what to say tough so both just decided to shut up. Well I suppose this is what happens when you end up on a date with a gay boy, it's such a waste tough, he looks good and is okay in my books. Nojiko thought. She supposed it was true that nice guys were always either taken, ugly or like Koza, gay. Isn't that Zoro and Sanji over there? Koza said suddenly, making Nojiko look at the other side of the street. Too, you're right. Nojiko-chan, Sanji yelled immediately after noticing them, making Koza groan in annoyance. And there they come, Nojiko said, not looking forward to talking to them either. Well, Zoro was okay in her books and so was Sanji in a way, as long as he didn't flirt too loudly, but as far as she knew those two always fought when in the same place at the same time. Great, just great. Nojiko-chan, how was your day? Sanji asked as he reached them. Well enough, she said with a shrug, and yours? Living hell, Sanji replied, making Koza snort. For once I agree with you, shitty cook, Zoro said as he reached them. What, you guys didn't have a nice date? Koza asked with a smirk, knowing as well as everyone else that those two simply hated each other. Shut it, Sandhead, Sanji spat, bet your date didn't go so well either. Actually we were having pretty fun, Koza said, which was pretty much a lie, until you two showed up, that is. The two blondes narrowed their eyes at each other. Nojiko, seeing that a fight might be about to break, blurted out, how about we switch pairs? Huh, the guys asked at once. The idea didn't sound so bad tough, well, sure, why not? Koza asked with a shrug, making the other guys nod. That's settled then, Nojiko said, taking Zoro's arm, let's go, Roronoa. The blondes blinked before what happened registered in their brains. Wait a minute, they yelled when they got it. Nojiko laughed and Zoro snickered, knowing that Nojiko had done that on purpose, just a joke, you guys. She took Sanji's arm and started to drag him down the street. I'm hungry, you'll pay, she stated, knowing that Sanji wouldn't refuse, of course, Nojiko-chan. What, you didn't feed your date? Zoro asked with a lazy smirk, that's not how a gentleman should act. When have I ever said that I'd be a gentleman? Koza asked, how about we go get something to drink? That's the first good idea I've heard all day, Zoro agreed, let's go. Chapter 29, The Date Game, Part 3. She's taking too long, Luffy muttered as he waited for Nami at a bus stop with Ace, we'll miss our bus. No you won't, she'll be here soon, Ace said, looking at his wristwatch, and Margaret and Vivi should be here by now, how come they're both late? We can't be late for the movies. Maybe you got dumped, Luffy asked with a huge grin which was replaced by a frown as Ace bonged him on the head, what did I do? Like I'd get dumped, girls love me, Ace said, crossing his arms. Luffy grinned again, saying, but you fear them. Ace hit him on the head again, muttering, shut up. Sorry if we're late, Vivi called from the other side of the road, crossing it with Margaret as the light turned green. Did we make it in time? Yeah, the movie theater isn't that far away, Ace said. We'll be going now, Luffy. Let's hope that Nami didn't ditch you. Margaret laughed and Vivi scolded Ace, telling him that it was rude, but he just waved it off while dodging Luffy's punch. Don't fall asleep in the movies, Luffy said, sticking his tongue out at Ace. Like I'd do that, Ace said. That had happened many times, in fact almost always when he went to the movies, but there was no need to tell that to his dates. We'll be going now. Yeah, bye, Luffy yelled. After Ace and the girls were out of sight he started to become impatient. Where was Nami? Had she forgotten or did she get lost? Or had he been ditched? Why was he thinking this on the first place? It wasn't like him at all, he never thought the downside of things. Luffy, Nami called as she ran to him. Sorry I'm late. What took you so long? Luffy asked with a pout, not being one of those patient people. I've been waiting forever. Quit complaining, Nami said, hitting him on the head. So, where are we going? To the amusement park. Luffy cheered. Nami's sweat dropped, but wasn't really surprised. Luffy was the childish type. A trip to the amusement park was actually a pretty obvious choice. Lucky for them the winter seemed to be late this year, for it wasn't that cold outside yet. Normally the amusement park wasn't even open anymore this time of the year. Well, it's not like I mind, and Luffy wouldn't be able to concentrate in anything calmer anyway, she thought. The day would definitely be fun. XXXXX. Robin was sitting around their kitchen table with Sabo, playing chess with him. She knew that Luffy and Ace hadn't come over to talk about their dates yesterday, but she didn't know what it was they talked about. She did have a feeling that it had something to do with her, though. She knew that if she'd try to get the truth out of Sabo subtly like she usually did it'd take forever, so instead she bluntly asked, "What were you three talking about yesterday?" Sabo, who was just about to move his knight, stopped his hand in midair, looking at Robin. What were you and your brothers talking about yesterday? She asked, leaning her face on her hand. Surely there was some other reason than their dates. And no, there was not, Sabo denied, returning his attention to the game. He's stuttering. Did it have something to do with me? Now she got it. The look on Sabo's face was enough of a proof. Even if he tried to deny it now she wouldn't believe him. Of course not, Sabo said with a poker face, but the blush on his cheeks gave him away. Robin smirked, asking, "So, what did they say about me? Or was it you that said something you don't want me to know? Can't you just concentrate on the game?" Was Sabo's answer, knowing that he had lost this game. He always lost if someone managed to make him nervous in the middle of a game, and Robin was well aware of that. Could it be she did this on purpose? You're a real bitch sometimes, Sabo said with a sigh. Robin smiled, knowing what he meant. It hadn't been her original purpose tough, but at least she'd win. XXXXX. I'm bored, Luffy said. It was at least 10th time in these 5 minutes they'd been waiting in line to get the tickets. Shut up, will you? Nami asked, starting to get annoyed. Waiting in line wasn't her favorite way to pass time either, but Luffy was making it even harder. But this is taking forever, he complained. It's our turn soon, Nami said, sighing. She liked Luffy and all, but sometimes he could be annoying as hell, or in fact, he was that most of the time. Why the hell did she like a guy like that? Well, he does have some good sides, Nami thought, but if someone had asked her what they were she wouldn't have known how to answer. She only knew that as annoying as Luffy was, she still liked his company. Oi Nami, it's our turn, Luffy said, snapping Nami out of her thoughts. After buying their tickets they got inside the amusement park. Let's go to the roller coaster first, Luffy yelled, pointing at the place. Nami nodded, but was slightly worried about the long line, which would feel longer than it really was because of Luffy's complaining. It better be worth it. XXXXX. I can't believe you slept through the whole movie. Margaret complained to Ace as they and Vivi left the movie theater. It was so romantic, how anyone can sleep through it. For your information, I was awake the first 10 or 15 minutes, Ace mumbled, and that movie was so boring. No, romantic, boring, romantic, boring. The two glared at each other before turning their gazes to Vivi, who was a little behind them, yelling at the same time, Vivi, you tell him, her. She says, putting her arms in front of her as a mark of surrender. Sorry Ace, but I agree with Margaret. The blonde smirks at the boy who lets out an irritated sigh. Girls, he mutters. It's not our fault that boys have bad taste in movies, right Vivi? Margaret asked, making Ace narrow his eyes. What was that? Margaret leaned in closer, making Ace take a step back and wonder if Luffy had told her about his fear of women who got too close. I said it's not my fault, you're an idiot, Margaret said, her face only an inch away from Ace's, who gulped. How dare you insult him? Ace sighed from both relief and annoyance. This was going to be a really long day. XXXXX. That was awesome, Luffy cheered, wondering, where should we go next? Nami smiled. They'd been going around the park, trying the best ones, such as the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel. She had liked all of those, but paled when Luffy yelled, let's go to the haunted house. Haunted house, she repeated. Yeah, how about we try the bumper cars first? We haven't been on them yet, right? Nami asked, trying to avoid going into the haunted house. Okay, Luffy said with a shrug. They still had many hours left, they'd have time for the haunted house later, and besides he wanted Nami to have fun. They could do what she wanted first, I'll be there first. Oh no you won't. Nami disagreed as they raced to the line that led to the bumper cars. Luffy got there first, but Nami wasn't far behind him. They went to the bumper cars 4 times before Nami said that they should try something else now. Let's go to the haunted hoe. How about some ice cream? Nami interrupted, smiling sweetly at him. I'll pay. Okay, Luffy said. Food could make him forget everything else, including the haunted house where he still wanted to go to. Nami took 1 ball of strawberry ice cream while Luffy took 1 chocolate, 1 strawberry and 1 vanilla ball for his ice cream. You're going to become fat, Nami told him, but Luffy disagreed. No I won't. Chopper said that people don't get fat as long as they move around to burn the entire extra fat in their bodies, he said, adding, I don't know what that means tough. Nami laughed. Only Luffy could say something like that and then honestly admit he had no idea what he was saying. She supposed it was part of his natural charm or something, a charm that was way different from his brother's one. As they ate their ice creams, Luffy told Nami of all the pranks he and Usopp had pulled on other people, starting from the time they were kids. Normally people didn't do as much pranks when they grew up, and neither did Luffy and Usopp it seemed, but their pranks have gotten more creative over the years. While still in the primary school, they'd usually pulled the classics such as putting a pin on the teacher's chair, replacing the chalks with licorice and wetting the sponge without wringing it so when someone took it all the water was on the floor. Raise your hand if you ever did that. Well actually, I never did it that way. Teacher told me to go wet the sponge once and I did, but didn't wring it, so you can probably guess what happened when I threw it to the teacher and he caught it. When they grew up they got smarter, well, Usopp did, and their pranks became more unique. According to Luffy, Usopp had once put an air balloon in the faucet of the class and asked a question just when the teacher had opened the tap, so he was looking away from the faucet and the growing balloon. The teacher's face had been priceless when the balloon had given out under the pressure and the water had gotten on him. Which teacher was it? Is he still in our school? Nami asked, but Luffy shook his head. Nah, he quit just after few months. The other teachers said he became a wreck or something, I don't even remember his name. Nami's sweat dropped, having an idea about whose fault it was that the teacher had become a wreck. Just how many people had Luffy driven insane in the first place? Did you ever pull pranks on your teachers? Not really, Nami answered. She wasn't the prankster type, she was more like steal your lunch money type as a kid. The few rare times she got caught she justified her actions by saying that she only stole from bullies and annoying people. That didn't stop her from getting punished, especially since some of those annoying people were teachers. Can we go to the haunted house now? Luffy asked suddenly, but Nami shook her head. I'm still eating. You had much less than I did, you're slow, Luffy commented. Nami's eyebrow twisted as she said, no, I just eat like civilized people do, unlike someone. Who? Luffy asked, titling his head, which irritated Nami. You of course. Really? Luffy asked, but shrugged right after. He didn't really care. Can we go to the haunted house after you've eaten? Nami sighed, agreeing. It looked like she had no way out. XXXXX. Answer my question already. What are you doing here with Ace? None of your business. Margaret snapped back at Hancock. Ace and Vivi had run into her and her sisters a while ago, and now Margaret was loudly arguing with the eldest one while Vivi tried to calm them down. Ace was leaning against a wall, not listening to the girls. He had no intention to join their little cat fight. Right now I'm almost wishing that I would have ended up with one of the guys. Ace thought with a sigh. He was really bad with women, especially the loud ones. He had to find a way to get rid of them. He glanced at Vivi, who finally gave up and leaned against the wall next to him. She hadn't been able to calm down the other girls. In Ace's opinion, Vivi wasn't so bad, at least when compared to the other girls present. Maybe they could ditch the other 4, including Margaret. Hey, Ace said, tapping Vivi lightly on the shoulder to get her attention, let's get out of here. Huh? Vivi questioned, glancing at the other 4 who weren't paying attention to them at the moment. What about Margaret? Let's ditch her, Ace said. Vivi was about to protest, but didn't when Ace added, it's her own fault for getting provoked like that by Hancock and her sisters. I suppose so, Vivi said, glancing at Margaret again. She was going to be angry when she found out, but Vivi didn't really like all this either, so, alright, let's go. Ace grinned. Victory. He motioned for Vivi to follow and they sneaked away from the 4 girls silently, well aware that Margaret wouldn't be happy when she found out. Oh well, it's going to be worth it. XXXXX. Why didn't you just say you were scared? Luffy asked as he walked after the furious orange-haired woman. She had been shaking the whole time they walked through the haunted house and let out a scream here and there. I could have held your hand if I had known. Nami stopped, looking at him oddly. Not that Luffy realized it, he only knew that he had her attention now. And what would that have helped? Nami asked, a slight blush making its way to her face. Ace and I did that when we were kids, like when we were watching horror movies. Luffy answered, making Nami's sweat drop. Right, of course he meant something like that. He probably didn't even know the word, romantic. Why'd I even think about it? It's not like I like him or anything, Nami assured herself, he's just one of my friends. Whatever, she said with a sigh, where next? Chain merry go round, was Luffy's automatic answer. That was fine with her, it was close. They were also lucky for the line wasn't very long, so they decided to use it 3 times. How about we go to the Hall of Mirrors next? Nami suggested, making Luffy agree. He had always loved making funny faces in front of those mirrors. Hey Nami, you look like Usopp. Luffy said as he noticed that the mirror Nami was using made her nose look big. Nami laughed, saying, at least I don't have elephant ears. Luffy blinked, looking at his own mirror before laughing. Not anymore, he said, switching to another mirror, now I'm just fat. That's even worse, Nami said with a laugh, adding his twitched mirror, I look like a toothpick. Really? Luffy asked, glancing at the mirror she was looking at, I don't see any difference to what you usually look like. Nami hit him on the head for this, although she might have hit a bit too hard. Shut up. XXXXX. Was it really fair to leave Margaret behind like that? Vivi asked as she and Ace entered a coffee house. Hey, you left her behind as much as I did, Ace defended himself, besides, what else should we have done? Left and have her following us with Hancock while they argued. No, but we should've, just admit that we did the right thing, Ace said with a lazy grin, this will teach Margaret to be aware of her surroundings. I suppose so, Vivi said, making Ace smirk. Victory. Let's get something to eat, he said, my treat. But you already paid the movies. No buts, Ace interrupted, isn't it a guy's job to pay everything on a date? That's old-fashioned, Vivi said, crossing her arms. I'm an old-fashioned gentleman, Ace said. Vivi didn't say it, but Ace could see the, yeah right, look on her face, or at least I'm trying to be. It doesn't fit you, Vivi simply said before they ordered something to eat. After choosing a table for them, Ace continued their conversation. Maybe not, but in the profession I was in I had to try. Had to. Well, I didn't have to, but if I had been acting like an asshole every single gossip magazine would have written about it, he said, it's hard to be a celebrity. Sometimes I actually wish I wouldn't have started as a singer at all. I think I know what you mean, Vivi said. Noticing the odd look Ace gave her, she explained, you know, having to watch your every move, for if you do something stupid it will end up in the magazines. Yeah well, that too, Ace said, leaning back on his chair, but that's not really what I meant, I don't really care what strangers think of me. He looked straight ahead, but Vivi knew he wasn't really looking at her. The problem was the effect it had on my friends and family, especially my little brother, he told, remembering how it had, although indirectly, led to his and Luffy's fight. Luckily it was all over now. You have a brother? Vivi asked. She hadn't heard of that. 2, actually, Ace said, Sabo and Lou. Suddenly he shut up, realizing what he had just been about to say. He wasn't supposed to tell anyone about Luffy. Hey, Luffy's brother's name is Sabo, too. Vivi trailed off as gears started to turn in her head. Ace felt the sudden urge to start banging his head on the table, but stopped himself. Maybe he could still fix this. That thought flew out of window tough as Vivi gasped. Luffy's gonna be so mad. So you and Luffy are? Yes we are, Ace cut her off, but don't say it out loud. Okay, Vivi said, but it bothered her. She had known Luffy for a few years now, yet she only recently found out he had a brother, and now she found out Ace was his brother too. They weren't really that close, but she wondered why he hadn't told her. Luffy didn't want anyone to know, Ace told, realizing what Vivi wanted to ask. He was afraid it'd make people treat him differently, mainly his friends. Vivi nodded, more or less understanding why Luffy had feared that. When her father's company went down, she too lost some so-called friends. They had only been with her because her family was rich. Luffy was good judge of character, tough. She doubted he had any close friends like that. I don't think he has friends like that. They might get a little angry since you guys didn't tell them, but it probably wouldn't change anything. Vivi told. Ace nodded, understanding her point, but he didn't know his brother's friends well enough to decide if he agreed or not. Would you mind keeping quiet about this? Ace asked, biting down on one of the many donuts he had ordered. Luffy told me not to tell anyone, so. Don't worry, I'll keep my mouth shut, Vivi assured with a smile. It's not like me to go around telling other people's secrets. Thanks, Ace said. Luffy would be mad if this got He didn't finish as his head fell on the table, making Vivi sigh. It seems he fell asleep again. XXXXX. I'm hungry, Luffy said as he and Nami got out of the roller coaster. Then we should go eat, Nami said. How about some pizza? Sounds good. Great, you're paying, Nami said, starting to skip towards the pizzeria without waiting for an answer. Let's go. Luffy frowned, running after her and asking, why do I have to pay? Because I paid the ice creams, Nami stated like it was a fact, and even Luffy could tell she had planned this. But the pizzas cost more, he pointed out. Nami smirked, a smirk that Luffy had learned to be wary of. Haven't you ever heard of interest? She asked. Besides, guys are supposed to treat girls when on date. Really? Luffy asked, thinking for a moment. Now I know why Zoro dates guys, he wouldn't be able to afford dating girls. There was 3 seconds of silence until Nami burst out laughing. The fact that Luffy didn't seem to mean it as a joke but a completely serious statement made it even funnier. Luffy frowned, asking, "What are you laughing at?" Nothing, Nami assured, just the fact that you're probably right. Luffy grinned, glad that he had gotten something right for once. XXXXX. Koza was about to enter a coffee house when he heard his phone ring. Taking it out of his pocket, he smirked at the name on the screen. He answered it by asking, "Did you find them?" "Yep, Ace and Vivi are at the Spinning Donut," Zoro said from the other end of the line. Koza chuckled. He and Vivi had always liked that cafeteria, just the two of them. "Where's Margaret?" "Don't know, don't care," Zoro said. "Actually, I'm glad we won't need to deal with her." Koza agreed. That woman was a pain in the ass, and besides, they didn't need her. Yesterday they had decided to tail down either Luffy and Nami or Ace's group, and after realizing that the first two were going into an amusement park, they settled on the later ones. Koza wanted to stay up to date on what Vivi was up to, and Zoro simply wanted to tail Ace for fun. They wouldn't have minded following Luffy and Nami either. It would be good if they had something to blackmail her with later. "Yeah, me too," Koza said. "I'll be there soon, I'm not that far." "Don't let them out of your sight, and, even more important, don't let them see you." "Yeah, I know," Zoro said. "See ya." XXXXX. "Are you really planning to eat all that by yourself?" Nami asked as the waitress finally brought Luffy his pepperoni and ham family pizza. "Yeah," Luffy said while cutting off a piece. "Or do you want some?" "You can have some, but only a little." "No thanks," Nami said with a sweat drop. "I was just wondering if you can actually eat all that." "It's easy," Luffy said, and Nami was surprised by how clearly he talked with his mouth full. "I eat a lot." "I know," Nami said. Had she not known Luffy as long as she had, she'd never believe if someone said that he ate a lot. He was almost as skinny as her. Where does all that food go anyway? Nami wondered. If I ate that much, I'd be fat as our domestic science teacher. As Nami ate her veggie pizza, she kept glancing at Luffy from time to time. He lacked table manners completely, and Nami was sure he wasn't even trying to eat politely even though they were in public. He ate with his hands, which wasn't so bad tough since he was eating pizza. There were crumbs all over his face, and he ate with his mouth open from time to time, mostly when he had stuffed too much food at once in his mouth. He slurped loudly every time he drank, and a few times he had spilled some of the soda on the table. "What the hell do I even see in that guy?" Nami asked herself, sighing. The worst thing was that she really didn't know why, but she had started to like him. And by like she meant the like, not liking like a friend. "Sure, he's nice, fun and all, but the same can be said about some other guys, and yet I don't have a crush on them. Honestly, what do I see in a childish guy like him?" Nami took another slice of her pizza, looking at Luffy. He wasn't really what she'd call handsome, but not ugly either. He looked just plain ordinary. He was childish and naive, but she had seen he also had a serious side. He was pretty stupid, but knowledge wasn't really everything, unless you wanted to be a doctor or something. "You eat too slowly," Luffy commented as soon as he had finished his pizza. "No, I don't, you just eat too fast," Nami shot back. Luffy was also a bit rude from time to time. She really didn't know what she saw in him. XXXXX. "Ace." "Yeah?" Ace asked, glancing at Vivi as they walked. "Well, for a while now I've felt like I'm being watched, and I don't mean by you," the blue-haired girl whispered, resisting the urge to turn around and look behind her. "So you noticed too?" Ace asked, smirking slightly. "We've been followed since we left the Spinning Donut." "What?" Vivi asked, about to turn around, but Ace took a hold of her shoulder before she could do so, whispering, "Don't look." "Have you seen who it is?" Vivi asked quietly. Ace removed his hand, trusting that Vivi wouldn't turn around. "No, but I have a few guesses," Ace said. "It could be Margaret or Hancock, possibly even both. It wouldn't be that surprising if they have caught up with us." "I suppose so. It could also be Zoro, following us just for the heck of it," Ace said, "but then again he usually hides pretty well, and yet you noticed someone was there, so maybe not." "I see. Luffy is also a possibility if Nami dumped him," Ace said with a chuckle. Vivi laughed a little, saying, "Or he could be following us with Nami, she does that kind of things." "Yeah, that could be the case," Ace agreed, smirking. "Should we try to find out who it is?" "How?" Vivi asked. "Just follow me," Ace answered, quickening his pace. Vivi followed him and they went around a corner, stopping. Ace motioned Vivi to lean against the wall like he was doing. She did so, understanding what Ace wanted to do. They waited, and after a while some blonde hair came to view from behind the corner. Ace put his leg out, successfully tripping Koza, making him land face first onto the ground. "Koza!" Vivi yelled, instantly going to her friend's aid. "Are you okay? Didn't that go a bit too far?" Zoro asked as he rounded the corner. He hadn't let Koza take the lead for nothing. He knew Ace would pull off something like this if he noticed them. And to Zoro it wasn't a surprise that he did. Koza wasn't good at spying. It was definitely his fault that Ace found out in the first place. You should have thought of that before following us, Ace said, ignoring the glare Koza sent him as Vivi helped him up. So, which one of you two got the idea of following us? It was our mutual decision, Zoro said, although I could tell that Koza would get us caught sooner or later. What? The blonde said, what makes you think it was my fault? Because this is the first time Ace actually manages to catch me while I'm tailing him, Zoro replied simply with a smirk. Koza and Vivi exchanged glances before looking at Ace, who nodded, although he was a bit annoyed that Zoro had to tell them that. I don't even want to know why you've been spying on him, Koza said. How many times did you got lost while doing that? None, Zoro said, obviously lying, and it was for fun and blackmail, to be clear. Yeah, not that he ever got anything useful, Ace said, but grew nervous when Zoro smirked. Or did you? Who knows, Zoro answered. By the way, where's Margaret? We ditched her, Ace answered, and don't change the subject. What subject? Zoro asked with a smirk. He yawned, saying, since you've already seen me, there's no point in staying here, I'm going home. Don't run away, Ace hissed, going after Zoro as the swordsman started to walk away. Spit it out. I suppose that ends your date, Koza told Vivi with a sweat drop. Wanna come over to my house? You haven't been there for a while. Sure, Vivi said, so how was your date with Nojiko? Could have been worse, luckily she isn't a bitch like her sister. Koza, yeah, I'm an asshole. XXXXX. See ya tomorrow at school. Luffy called out as he and Nami parted ways. He had had fun and for a moment he had considered asking Nami out for a real date, but in the end had decided against it. He didn't really know much about such things as dating, so he decided to just wait, till he found out more. Usually he was the type to do things without thinking, but this was something he really didn't want to mess up, and it's not like he was in a hurry. He could ask Nami out when he felt like it. For now he was okay with spending time with her as friends. And it's not like anyone else has their eyes on Nami. Sanji doesn't count. Chapter 30, Vivi's Big Mouth. Are you angry, Margaret? Vivi asked as the blonde came over to her and Kaya, looking not too happy. Of course I'm angry. The blonde said, how could you two leave me? Sorry, Vivi said apologetically, but you got provoked by Hancock and we didn't really want to deal with her, so, So you decided to ditch me along with her, Margaret said, sighing. I suppose I can forgive that, it's hard to handle that bitch. Vivi smiled, but frowned when Margaret asked, so, did you two have fun when you were alone? We just talked and drank some coffee, Vivi said, knowing what Margaret was getting at, and the two ended fast because Ace took off with Zoro. Had Vivi known Margaret would understand that the wrong way, she would have kept her mouth shut, but she didn't realize that what she said could be understood in a different way that she meant. The day's lunch break was going to be a bit awkward. XXXXX. When is it going to snow? Luffy wondered as he ate lunch on the roof with his friends. Good question, it's already late October and yet we're still eating in the roof. Last year it would have been way too cold this time of year. Usopp said. That reminds me, are you going to keep a Halloween party this year? Margaret asked. Definitely, Sanji answered, but I was thinking that we could try keeping it just between our group this year. Why? Luffy asked with a pout. The more the merrier. As far as I know, we're all low on money, Sanji said. Who's going to pay for the extra food we'd have to buy for a large amount of people? He has a point, Luffy, Usopp said. When Luffy still looked like he was about to protest, Zoro added his 2 cents into the conversation. Less people means you'll have more to eat. Oh, Luffy realized, then it's okay. The others' sweat dropped, but shook it off. They were completely used to this by now. Hey guys, did we miss something? Chopper asked as he sat down with Vivi. To put it simply, we'll have a Halloween party next Friday, just our usual group, Sanji said, slapping Luffy's hand away from his lunchbox. Nice try, but not enough. It means we'll get to eat all the food on our own, Luffy informed the younger two, who sweat dropped. Are we going trick-or-treating together this year too? Chopper asked, receiving nods from Usopp and Luffy. Yeah, but we'll have to do it before the party. Are you coming too, Zoro? Chopper asked hopefully, but his smile fell when Zoro answered, no. Why? The younger boy asked with teary eyes. Zoro closed his eyes, knowing that if he'd keep them open and look into Chopper's puppy eyes he'd give in. I just don't want to. I bet 20 that in the end he'll give in, Koza whispered to Nami, who smirked, answering, deal. Come on Zoro, it'll be fun. Luffy said, making Usopp and Chopper cheer. Still no. Come on Zoro, please, Chopper pleaded. The others sniggered, noticing that Zoro was starting to sweat. Chopper never realized it, but if you wanted to change Zoro's decision on something, he was your man. Don't bother him, Chopper, Usopp said. If he's so afraid of children in Halloween costumes he doesn't need to come. A vein popped on Zoro's head and the others laughed. Chopper however didn't catch on. Is Usopp right, Zoro? Chopper asked, are you scared? No, Zoro answered, gritting his teeth. Hey, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Koza joined the conversation, his smirk going unnoticed by Chopper. Everyone's scared of something, although you're probably the only one of us that's scared of little kids in Halloween costumes. I am not scared of little kids in Halloween costumes, Zoro said. Okay, we believe you, Koza said. Does that mean you're scared of Usopp in a Halloween costume? The others laughed as Zoro glared at Koza. You're so dead, he said. As he prepared to give Koza a good beating, Chopper got between them. Zoro, does this mean you don't want to go trick-or-treating with me? Zoro looked at Chopper, which was a big mistake on his part. Those teary puppy dog eyes, damn it. Fine, I'll come, the others laughed as Chopper cheered with Usopp and Luffy. Koza smirked at Nami, who mumbled curses while fishing out a 20 from her school bag. He's never known how to say no to Chopper, the blonde whispered, making Nami glare at him. And now you tell me. What are you two whispering about? Zoro asked with a frown. Nothing, the two chorused, faking innocent. Zoro narrowed his eyes at them, but focused his attention on Usopp as he asked, so how did your dates go? They ditched me, Margaret growled, glaring at Ace, who just laughed. Why did you ditch her? Usopp asked, adding after few seconds, on the other hand, never mind. I wouldn't have been able to stand her long either if I was you. Hey, Margaret protested, I'm not that bad. Sure you ain't, Koza said, I've heard a thing or two about the way you acted when you found out that a famous singer was coming to our school. Famous singer with a fear of girls. Luffy said, getting a glare from Ace. Luffy. But it's true, the straw hat wearing boy said. Luffy, don't be rude to your brother, Vivi said. A silence fell and Vivi looked around before realizing her mistake. Before covering her mouth, she mumbled, sorry. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is In His Shadow by Mikila. Chapter 31, Revelations. What? Koza asked from Vivi, but she looked away. He turned his attention to Ace instead, who looked like he couldn't decide if he should start denying what Vivi said or pretend he didn't hear anything. Making his own conclusions, Koza asked, guys, is there something we should know? You promised not to tell, was what Ace settled on as he glared at Vivi, who looked down. You promised not to tell anyone either, Ace, Luffy said, glaring at his brother. It was an accident. Ace defended himself, and now that you opened your big mouth, there's no way we can trick them any longer. You both said too much, Zoro said with a sigh, and how come you ended up telling it to Vivi of all people? Everyone knows she has the bad habit of letting other people's secrets slip. And no one told me because. Ace hissed, but got no answer. If I'd known, I would have reminded her not to say anything before we came to eat lunch. I really didn't mean to, Ace, Vivi said, it just slipped. Ace sighed, saying, yeah, I know. I didn't expect it to stay as a secret even this long. I was sure Luffy would be the first to accidentally slip something. Hey, so, what Vivi said was true? Usopp asked, voicing everyone's thoughts. Well, everyone's but the brothers and the three others who knew. Why else would Ace be so mad about her slipping it? Zoro said. Why didn't you guys ever tell us? Margaret said, knowing full well that she wasn't the only one wondering this. Didn't see a reason to, Ace said with a shrug. Besides, since Luffy hadn't already done so, why would I have? Back then you were his friends and not mine. Fair enough, Koza decided, looking at Luffy, and what's your excuse? I didn't think it mattered, Luffy said, or does it? It's not like anything's changed, Zoro put in, right, guys. You knew, Sanji realized, pointing an accusing finger at Zoro, you knew, just admit it. Yeah, I knew, Zoro said, and you would have realized it on your own if you'd used your head just a little bit. It's pretty damn obvious, curly brow. But you two have different last names, Usopp said. Do you two have same dad but different mothers or something? Nah, like I've said, I'm an orphan, Ace said. I never even lived with him, but officially I'm adopted by Luffy's dad. Luffy has his last name and I have my mom's. I can't believe you kept something like this from your friends, Luffy, Usopp said dramatically. As a punishment, you'll have to share the candies you'll get from trick-and-treating in the Halloween party with all of us. What? Luffy yelled, eyes pulping out. No. Yes you will, that's a suitable punishment, Sanji agreed, isn't it? Agreed, Koza said, and he wasn't the only one. Luffy pouted, asking, what about Zoro, Ace and Nami? They knew too. Don't say my name, Nami hissed, hitting Luffy. Koza looked at her in disbelief, asking, you knew too? Yeah, I happened to overhear Luffy and Ace talking, she admitted, crossing her arms, but I don't owe you guys anything for it, so don't you even try, Usopp. Usopp had been about to say a suitable punishment, but Nami's glare shut him up. It wasn't worth the trouble. What about Ace and Zoro? Luffy insisted, not wanting to be the only one punished. Zoro should share his candies too. Agreed, Sanji said, your punishment's set, Marimo. Whatever, curly brow, Zoro said, what about Ace? We could force him on a date with Hancock, Luffy said with a laugh, getting hit by his horrified older brother, like hell you will. That would be a bit too cruel, Zoro disagreed, but the idea is good. How about Margaret instead? Still too cruel, Koza said, wincing at Margaret's loud protests. Ace, however, nodded. Still too cruel. You aren't eating any candy in the Halloween party, Luffy suddenly decided. The others were about to protest, but decided it was good enough when they saw Ace's pained face. You guys can't be serious, Ace said. The only reason I didn't tell anyone is cause Luffy told me not to. Why did he do that? Usopp asked, looking at his friend who started to whistle as innocently as he could. No reason. Guys, what does it matter? You know it now, Zoro said. Like he had thought, the others seemed to be more upset about the fact that Luffy hadn't told them than the fact that Ace was his brother. However, he felt like he should put a stop to this before Luffy got the wrong idea about why they were a bit mad. Yeah, whatever, Koza said. Any other secrets we should know about before Vivi slips them? Luffy and Ace looked at each other, which made the others realize that yes, there was still something and they were silently wondering if they should tell the others or not. Spit it out guys, Margaret said. We can tell there's still something you're not telling us. The brothers looked at each other for a while more before Luffy gave in. The principal is my grandpa. A silence followed as the others stared at him in shock, eyes wide. Zoro was among them, although he had his doubts, but hearing it directly from Luffy was quite shocking. That was just a really bad joke, right? Usopp asked, laughing nervously, but the brothers just shook their heads. No joke. Well, it does explain some things, Sanji muttered, remembering how Luffy always sneaked off when the principal came close, and now that I think about it, you two do have things in common. No we don't, Luffy disagreed. Yes you have, Koza said, you and him are both brain dead. Koza expected the others to burst out laughing but when they didn't he knew something was wrong. Please don't say that. Fine, we won't, Zoro said. Koza face-palmed, making as innocent face as he could as he turned around, saying, good afternoon, Principal Garp. Afternoon to you too, Koza, Garp said, tapping his foot to the roof. Now, who did you say was brain dead? Teacher Shanks. The answer was automatic, the one person he had learned to insult in front of the principal. The name had saved him more than once in these kinds of situations. Garp nodded, accepting the answer. I agree, he's bad influence to all of you. The students' sweat dropped, all of them thinking that if someone were bad influence it was the principal himself. Luckily none of them, not even Luffy, was stupid enough to say so in his face. Well then, you kids continue with your lunches, I have work to do, Garp said with a laugh, heading back to his office. The students' sweat dropped as they watched after their laughing principal. What did he come here for anyway? Zoro asked. Beats me, Ace said. So, what were we talking about again before Vivi slip up? Your dates, Usopp reminded. How did they go? Well enough, Koza said with a shrug, knowing that no one would bother to ask him much since they all knew he wasn't interested in Nojiko in the lightest. As long as Zoro or Sanji didn't slip anything about the switch he was on clear waters. You're as boring as always, Zoro said, deciding to not say anything about the switch either. Turning his attention to Luffy he asked, and you too? We went to the amusement park, Luffy said, giving a small glare to Nami, and Nami tricked me to pay for her food. It's a man's job to pay everything on a date, Sanji said simply. Nami nodded, saying, that's what I said. That's unfair, Luffy reasoned. And old-fashioned, Koza pointed out. Nah, just simply stupid, Zoro added. The guys, aside from Sanji, agreed. You guys are just brutes with no manners, he told. A true gentleman never lets a lady pay. Agreed, Margaret said. So, how did your date go after you ditched me? You guys seriously ditched her? Usopp asked. Ace, you're no gentleman. The others laughed and Ace just rolled his eyes. But she said that later Ace ditched her too and went off with Zoro, Margaret told. Everyone turned to look at Ace who was once again glaring at Vivi. Did you have to say it that way? You do realize what it sounds like, don't you? Vivi blinked before realizing her mistake. Oh, she let out. I didn't mean it like that. You're the queen of slip-ups and misunderstandings, Zoro said with a roll of his eyes. Do you even understand the word "secret"? She's as familiar with the word as you are with sense of direction, Usopp said, making the others laugh as the green-haired man yelled, shut up. Chapter 32, This is Halloween, Part 1. Do you guys have everything ready? Usopp asked as he prepared for trick-or-treating with his friends. After receiving 3 nods he continued, good. We'll split the neighborhood in half and both halves are handled by 2 people. Chopper and Zoro, take the eastern side so Luffy and I can take the western. Any questions? Why are you the one deciding everything? Zoro asked. He didn't really mind. In his opinion this whole trick-or-treat thing was stupid, but it did annoy him when Usopp, or anyone else for that matter, bossed him around. Because Luffy's too dumb, Chopper a kid and you're not interested enough. Usopp replied. Luffy and Chopper laughed, but the straw hat wearing teen still hit his friend on the head for the insult. Whatever, Zoro said. The long nose did have a point. Can we go now? Yeah, let's go, Usopp said, and Zoro East is in that direction, which means you'll have to go there. I know that, Zoro said and started to walk towards west. What did I just tell you? Zoro East is this way, Chopper said, starting to push Zoro in the right direction. You are going towards west. What? Zoro asked. Damn you Usopp. you showed me the wrong direction. No I didn't, you went to the wrong direction on your own. Usopp yelled, I wouldn't be surprised if you someday get lost in your own room. Zoro was very annoyed by this, but Chopper tugging on his arm stopped him from attacking Usopp. Zoro, let's go, the boy said, making the face again. Zoro just couldn't fight against it and so Usopp got to live for another night. XXXXX. Oi, Sandhead, get the door. Sanji yelled to Koza from the kitchen as the doorbell rang. Don't boss me around. Koza yelled back but got up and went to the door anyway, letting Nami in. You could have just walked in, you know. There's a thing called manners, you know, she shot back at the blonde, making him roll his eyes. Is Vivi here yet? Nah, she's coming with Kaya, Koza told, making his way to the living room. Margaret is already here, tough. Nami Swan, let me take your coat. Sanji called out, coming over. Koza's eyebrow twisted. If he was going to come over anyway, why couldn't he open the damn door? Thanks, Sanji-kun, Nami said, giving the blonde her goat. Are Luffy and the others still trick-or-treating? Yeah, the kids are playing around, Koza said. Aren't they too old for trick-or-treating? One's never too old for some fun. Yo-ho-ho, Nami nearly jumped as she heard this, having not noticed the skinny old man get in from the front door with Frankie. It was Brook who she had met in the last party, wouldn't you agree, Frankie-san? Of course, you can have Sue, for fun no matter what age you are. Frankie replied, doing his signature pose. Nami's sweat dropped, but didn't do anything. Vivi had said that she should just ignore it every time she saw that, and that was exactly what she was going to do. As she sat down on the couch she asked from Koza, what's the difference between the Halloween party and their usual parties? There isn't really much difference, Koza told. Last year there was just more candy than usual in Usopp. Sanji and Brook were telling ghost stories, freaking the hell out of Chopper and Vivi. Other than that I don't recall any big differences. Not that it's a big surprise, Margaret put in, because Luffy takes any chance he gets to throw a party. True, Koza said as the doorbell rung again. Aw crap. Just so you know, I ain't going. I get it, Frankie said, leaving Brook into the living room with the others. When he came back Ace was with him as well as Vivi and Kaya. I ran into these two on my way here, the narcoleptic explained. Is Luffy back from trick-or-treating yet? We're back. Well, speak of the devil, Koza said with a sigh, there's your answer. They watched as Luffy raced into the living room with Chopper and Usopp right behind him. Zoro followed soon after, yawning and walking lazily. He needed a nap and something to drink. We got lots and lots of candy. Luffy announced, right guys? Yeah, lots and lots. Usopp and Chopper confirmed, showing their haul. Nice, don't forget you'll have to share them with the rest of us, Koza reminded Luffy, making him to go sulk into a corner. What's that about? Frankie asked as he tossed his pants in the corner of the room. Pants were uncomfortable, he never wore them at home. Well, it turned out that those two, Usopp started, pointing at Ace and Luffy, were actually brothers, and as a punishment for not telling us we decided that Luffy should share his candies with everyone and that Ace couldn't eat any today. Okay, Frankie said with a sweat drop. Anyone up for karaoke? Margaret asked out of nowhere. Koza groaned, saying, hopefully you aren't, you suck. What was that? Margaret asked. The night went on with karaoke, laughter, arguing, candy and lots of good food until Usopp turned off the karaoke machine and told it was time for ghost stories. Ghost stories? Chopper asked, trembling. I don't wanna hear any. Then why did you come to a Halloween party anyway? Koza asked, sissy. Just leave him alone, he doesn't have to listen if he doesn't want to, Zoro said, neither do you Vivi. Everyone turned to look at Vivi who looked almost as nervous as Chopper. Looks like we got another chicken here, Koza said with a smirk. No, I'm okay, Vivi said, but her wavering tone gave off her nervousness. I don't mind ghost stories. Sure you don't, Koza said with a snort. Don't worry Vivi, Kaya comforted the blue-haired girl. Usopp's stories are never scary. Ghost stories and such are supposed to be scary, Nami reminded. So, who's going to start? Or should I? I'll charge 10 berries per story per person. You ain't telling any, Koza was quick to decide and the others agreed. Nami shrugged, saying, it was just one option. I know a good one. Luffy yelled suddenly, causing everyone to look at him. You know ghost stories? Sanji asked in disbelief. Who would have guessed? It's a horror story, Luffy corrected. Even better, Zoro said, we're on all ears. It was a dark and stormy night, Luffy started, making Zoro snort. Even Luffy knew the clichés. Young man woke up in the middle of the night, feeling hungry. Knowing that when he was hungry he should eat, so he went to kitchen. He walked through the dark room, opening the fridge door. When he looked inside he screamed. Usopp and Chopper gulped, fearing how the story would go on. Because all the meat was gone. A deadly silence fell into the room. The others didn't know if they should laugh at Luffy's stupid horror story or be mad that he wasted their time with that. Most of them settled on the first option. The hell was that? Zoro managed to ask while laughing. You called it a horror story? Koza asked, even Vivi would do better. It is a horror story. Luffy protested with a pout. all the meat was gone, it's horrifying. Sure, Nami said, does anyone have a real horror story? I happen to know one, if anyone's interested, Ace said. This better not be another story about missing food, Nami said, and Ace shook his head, nope. Well, spit it out then, Koza said. Ace smirked, starting his story. Long ago there was a small town far off in the west. Despite it being small, it was still very wealthy. However, the mayor of another not-so-well-off town became more and more jealous of this town and its happy inhabitants, so one day he hired a small but deadly group of criminals to get rid of the town and its wealth. In the dark of the night, those 7 people. Only 7? Usopp asked with a raised eyebrow and got hit by Nami for interrupting. Continue. Right, like I said, in the dark of the night 7 people snuck into the village. Didn't you say town? Koza asked, smirking innocently as Ace gave him a glare. Do you guys have to keep interrupting me? Who cares about little things like that? Margaret said. Please continue, Ace. Yeah, so the 7 of them snuck into the town, going to separate directions. Some of them set fires, some started commotion by breaking windows or anything that was on their path. There was also this one man, the most feared one, their leader, who went off on his own. He didn't take part into setting fires or breaking things. Instead, he mercilessly slaughtered people. Men and women, old and young, anyone who crossed his path. One of them was a young, beautiful woman. She was the town's scapegoat, about the only one who didn't have a comfy life. When the murderer came across her, he decided, for one reason or another, to torture her first. When he had her cornered, he broke her arms before taking out his knife, cutting pieces from the woman's arms, enjoying her screams of horror and pain. Ace paused for a while as he let his eyes travel over everyone's faces. All of them were more or less disturbed, except Zoro, who had heard the story once before. Looks like he got it. And then? Usopp asked, gulping. Ace smirked, continuing, and then comes the disturbing part. The pieces that he cut off from her arms, can you guess what he did to those? I don't wanna know. Chopper decided, covering his ears, making Ace chuckle. Why don't you tell us? Koza asked. Ace smirked, once again continuing his story. With a sinister grin, he forcefully fed the bloody pieces of flesh to the very same woman whose arms he had cut them from. He paused again, listening to the sounds of disgust before continuing. Eventually the young woman came to her limit. Not wanting to suffer any longer, she bit off her tongue. Ack, where did you come up with something so disgusting? Sanji asked. It's not over yet, Ace told. No one knows if it is because of the woman's hate towards her hometown, her killer, or both, or possible even her love for the town, but her soul never reached either heaven or hell. Instead, it stayed on Earth, haunting people. Even in these days, far off in the west, they sometimes find bodies with broken, bloody arms. There has been an eyewitness, who told about a young woman without arms, blood dripping from her mouth. The armless woman grows arms out of the ground in her victims' bodies, pinning them down before breaking their arms. She slices them up with her sharp nails before biting off her victims' tongues with a kiss. 3 days after telling this, the eyewitness had done a suicide, or so they say, by biting off his tongue. So if you ever go to the west, be aware of this dangerous ghost woman. That's horrible, Kaya said. It was a horror story, it's meant to be horrible, Koza said. Try to outdo that one, long nose. I'm the king of stories after all, Usopp said, but he did have his doubts that he might not be able to outdo Ace's story. Dim the lights please. Super idea, we should have done that earlier, Frankie said as he moved to turn out most of the lights. Creates the right atmosphere. Okay, I'll start now, Usopp announced, clearing his throat. Once upon a time there was a horror story, Usopp, not a fairy tale, Zoro put in, making the others laugh. Shut up, Usopp hissed. So, once upon a time there was a little girl, living with her parents and older brother. They were a happy family until one day the parents and the girl got into a car crash. The parents died, but the girl survived. However, thanks to the trauma, her mind fell to the level of a 2-year-old. 3 months later her brother became tired of taking care of her, so he came up with a fatal plan. He took her sister to the woods, chopping her head off with an axe. Since the girl had been carrying her favorite stuffed bunny, her brother cut off one of its paws as a memory of his sister. After her brother had left, the girl's spirit rose from the body, swearing to revenge her brother. The spirit started to look around for her brother in the woods. She was murdered. She appeared in front of campers, asking, "Have you seen the paw of the bunny?" And whatever they answered, she killed them by slitting their throats. She's still hunting those woods today. Pretty good, I'll give you that, but it's no match for Ace's story, Margaret said. Right guys? Agreed, Sanji said. Besides, I feel like I've heard that paw story somewhere. I'll go get something to drink, Vivi decided. Feel free to start another story without me if you want. She wanted to get away because she was scared by the stories, didn't she? Zoro asked. Yep, that's Vivi for you, Nami said with a chuckle. XXXXX. When Vivi went into the kitchen, she didn't turn the lights on. She knew she'd get to hear about it from Koza later if she did. Okay, she was a bit scared of dark, especially after hearing disturbing ghost stories, but so what? But no, putting the light on wouldn't be worth all the teasing she'd get from Koza and possibly Nami too. She went over to the fridge to get a soda, but froze in her drags as she opened the door. There, in the middle of the fridge, was a hand. After it pointed at her, she screamed. What happened? Koza asked, coming to her side only few seconds after her scream. The others weren't far behind either. But there, in the fridge. Aha, hand. Huh, Koza said, looking into the fridge before laughing. Vivi, it's just a rubber glove. He took the pink glove out of the fridge to show it to the others, who laughed as well. Why was it in the fridge? Nami asked. Beats me, Sanji said, looking at Luffy. Do you know something about this? Nope, he said. Sanji dropped the subject, knowing that Luffy couldn't lie. If he had put it there he would have been caught just now. But I saw it move, Vivi told. The others stared at her for a while before Usopp said, You know Ace, it seems your story was a bit too good. Looks like it, he said, scratching his head. Sorry about that. But it really did move. Vivi protested. Maybe there was a mouse. Margaret suggested. In a fridge. Koza asked. I doubt it. It would be a different story if we were talking about a closet or something. No it wouldn't, Sanji said, offended. There are no mice in my kitchen. Knock knock. Did you guys hear that? Usopp asked. Yeah, someone's at the door, Sanji said with a sigh as he walked to open it. Why not to just ring the doorbell? Huh, Sanji said as he opened the door but saw no one. Shitty pranksters. As soon as he closed it and turned to walk away, someone knocked again. A vein popping on his head he opened the door again, but no one was there. What are you doing? Nami asked as she reached Sanji. Some shitty kids are probably messing with us, he said with a sigh, closing the door. After a few seconds a knock sounded again. Sanji grit his teeth, saying, pretend you don't hear anything. When he and Nami got to the living room where the others were waiting, they saw all the cushions and pillows that had been there put into one big pile. Is there a reason for that? Nami asked. We don't know, Zoro said, they were like that when we got here from the kitchen. Someone's messing with us, Sanji summed up, and if it's not one of you guys, then that means someone else is here. AG Ghost? Chopper asked. Ghosts don't exist, Koza said, and it doesn't seem to be a thief either. Probably one of us, no one just admits it, Nami said with a sigh. Whatever, it's not like a little trick like this would scare anyone. Do you guys know what we should do since someone so generously piled up the pillows? Usopp asked with a smirk, taking the one on the top. What? Kaya asked before Usopp hit her with a pillow. A pillow fight. Luffy cheered, causing everyone to act fast. They took pillows and started attacking the nearest person right after. I feel like I was in kindergarten again. Koza complained. That however didn't stop him from joining forces with Zoro to beat the hell out of Sanji. So you're playing beat the cook, huh? Frankie asked. I'll join you. Shitty bastards. Sanji yelled, trying to block attacks from all three with not so good results. The brothers on the other hand had ganged up against Usopp, laughing at his poor attempts to defend himself. Bet he was regretting the idea now. It surprised and even scared everyone as the lights suddenly went off completely. What happened? Vivi asked fearfully, clinking on the arm of the nearest person. A fuse probably broke, Frankie said. Anyone has a flashlight? I'm gonna check it out. Someone tapped him on the shoulder and he turned, taking the flashlight. Thanks, he said as he flicked it on. After Frankie left it didn't take long for the lights to come back on. When he came back he said, someone's definitely messing with us. How so? Nami asked with a raised eyebrow. The fuse didn't break, someone turned off the power, Frankie explained, and as far as I know we were all here at the time, meaning there's someone else in the house. A ghost? Chopper asked, but Nami shook her head. Ghosts don't exist. It can't be a thief either, one wouldn't let us know that he's here, Sanji said. Someone's messing with us, and we sure as hell have to find that shitty guy and teach him a lesson. What makes him so sure it's a guy? Nami asked from the nearest person, who happened to be Kaya. He just is like that, she said. Okay, let's split up and find that bastard, Koza said. I'll check from outside. I'll come too, Zoro said, telling the others, make sure nobody moves around alone, just to be safe. Oi Zoro, are you saying it's not just a prankster? Usopp asked fearfully, clutching the arm of annoyed Sanji. We can't know for sure until we see who it is, the blonde said, shaking the long nose off. The sooner we get moving the sooner we'll find out who it is. Let's go. XXXXX. Luffy and Nami were checking the cellar to see if anything was wrong. Nami had been scared, not that she'd admit it, and though she'd be safe with Luffy. In a way she didn't doubt it now either, but she hadn't realized that Luffy was the type who'd want to check the scary places. Why didn't I go with Sanji? She thought bitterly, knowing that unlike Luffy the blonde would have listened to her and wouldn't have gone to the cellar. She looked around fearfully, walking right behind Luffy, hands on his shoulders ready to use him as a shield if something happened. You don't have to be scared you know, Luffy said suddenly. He turned around, grinning. Sabo once told me that ghosts aren't solid, so they can't hurt anyone. Idiot, ghosts don't exist. Nami hissed, there's definitely someone here, but it's not a ghost. Has anyone ever proved that ghosts don't exist? Luffy asked. Huh, Nami said, well, no but. Then we can't know for sure, right? Luffy said with a grin. Nami sighed, giving up. This was not her day. XXXXX. What was that? The wind, Chopper, just the wind, Sanji assured with a sigh as they walked through the hallway of the second floor with Margaret. Do you have to freak out about everything? Margaret asked the youngest of the group. But ghosts are scary, Chopper said. There's no ghost, Chopper, it's just a thief, prankster or something like that, Sanji told, and whatever it is, I'll kick his ass. Exactly, so quit whining, Margaret said, at this rate you'll make us nervous, too. Her voice got quieter at the end as she concentrated on staring in from the door Sanji had opened, seeing something white moving on the other side of the room. What is it, Margaret-chan? Sanji asked, looking into the room together with Chopper. The man's eyes widened and the two younger ones yelled, a ghost. The sight shocked Sanji too, but after a moment he was able to see clearly and knew it wasn't a ghost. There's no ghost, he said walking into the room, see. Sanji took a hold of the so-called ghost, which turned out to be a white curtain moved by the wind from the open window behind it. Oh, Margaret said blushing, right, I knew that. But this window shouldn't have been open, Sanji said as he closed it. The one who opened it was probably the same person who turned the power off, and was at the door. So whoever it is broke in through that window. Margaret asked, but Sanji shook his head. I doubt it, this is the second floor after all and Margaret asked, but Sanji shook his head, no, it's nothing. There was no use in scaring them, especially since he wasn't sure, but he had a feeling they had more than one intruder. XXXXX. Quit pushing, Usopp, Ace said as they checked Luffy's room on the first floor with Vivi. Sorry, the long-nose said. He was walking right behind Ace, ready to use him as a shield. Vivi was beside him, looking almost as scared. Do you see anything? Anything out of ordinary? Ace asked. I suppose not, I mean the room's a mess but that's to be expected since it's Luffy's, right? Yeah, Usopp admitted, so nothing's here. Let's. He stopped when he heard a thud. What was that? He asked, hiding behind Ace. I think it came from over there, Vivi said, pointing at Luffy's closet. Well then let's see what. Ace stopped suddenly, falling face first onto the floor. Ace, Usopp asked, almost panicking before he heard faint snoring. Oh right, his something. Narcolepsy, Vivi reminded, can you help me to turn him over? He could suffocate like that. Right, Usopp said. Neither of them wasn't really what you'd call strong, but turning one guy on his back wasn't an impossible task, so what do we do about the closet? Aren't you a man, Usopp? Vivi said, so shouldn't you go and see? What? No way. Usopp disagreed, rock paper scissors. No, Vivi refused. She was really bad at that game, let's go together, okay. Right, you go first, I'll be right behind you, the long-nose said. Vivi sighed, walking to the closet. Gulping, she opened the door. Nothing. Maybe it came from somewhere else after all, Vivi said, turning to face Usopp. She frowned as she saw the long-nose's pale face. What? Be behind you, Usopp stuttered, pointing at the closet. Vivi paled, slowly turning her head to face whatever Usopp was afraid of. The sight of the arms coming out of the wall covered in red was what made her let out a scream heard in the whole house. Chapter 33, This is Halloween, Part 2. The first one to rush into Luffy's room after hearing Vivi's scream was Frankie, for he had been closest as he had sat in the living room with Kaya and Brook. What happened? He asked, stopping at the doorway. Ace was still lying on the floor, snoring. Usopp had fallen over in shock, still pointing at the closet and Vivi stood in front of him, frozen in shock. Frankie looked at the closet Usopp was pointing at, and the sight caught him off guard too. What's going on? Did you find the ghost? Nami and Luffy yelled at the same time as they got to the door. Oi, Sanji called, arriving to the scene with Margaret and Chopper. What happened? I in the sea closet, Vivi mumbled, not taking her eyes off of the hands. The others looked too and Nami, along with Chopper and Margaret, let out a scream. Sanji's mouth dropped open, but he didn't scream. Unlike the others, Luffy wasn't scared. Instead he just yelled, awesome. Wait a second, Frankie muttered, going closer to the closet, I've definitely seen something like this before. He poked one arm a few times before it slapped his hand away. He laughed, finally realizing what was going on. Okay Nico Robin, you got us super good, now come out wherever you're hiding. He called out, getting everyone's attention on himself. What? An arm suddenly appeared under the window, opening it. A few seconds later it disappeared and the raven-haired woman gracefully slipped in from the now open window. Looks like I've been found out, Robin said with a small laugh, her ice blue eyes scanning every person in the room. It seems you have quite a party going on in here. Yeah we do, but you do realize how badly you scared the kids, don't you? Frankie said with a frown, not super at all. Yeah Robin, that wasn't nice. Chopper yelled, tears threatening to fall from his eyes. Had it been anyone else, Robin would just have brushed it off with a quick laugh and apology, but this was Chopper. The little guy always managed to melt her heart. She walked over, patting Chopper's head. "I'm sorry, Chopper, I won't do it again," she assured. "You bet you won't, you scared us half dead," Margaret yelled as she recovered from the shock. "And who's gonna carry that passed out long nose back to the living room?" "It won't be me, that's for sure." "Just leave him there," Frankie said. "He and the singer can come after us when they wake up. Let's go back to the living room." "Agreed, it's not like we need them," Sanji said. "Say, Robin-chan, isn't that a power from the devil's drug?" "It is. Then you were doing all the pranks, on your own, alone?" Sanji asked. "It wouldn't be hard for her with the drug. I did do everything on my own, but I didn't come alone," Robin told, a small smile creeping to her face. "My companion is waiting outside, possibly talking with Zoro at the moment. And I have to confess that this wouldn't have worked so well if Ace hadn't told you all the horror story I came up with." "He was in this?" Nami asked. "He's so dead. Should we arrange him on a date with Hancock as a punishment?" Luffy asked. "For once you say something smart," Nami said with an evil smirk, high-fiving with Luffy. "Does it mean you didn't catch on, Luffy?" Robin asked. "Sabo and I did this to you, Ace and Zoro once before." "You knew too," Margaret hissed, glaring at Luffy. "He probably didn't realize it," Nami said. "If he had, he would have definitely slipped up something." "Nami-san is right," Sanji said. "Besides, Luffy has an attention span of a toddler, it's no wonder he didn't remember." Luffy frowned. Pointing at Sanji, he turned to Robin, asking, "Is he insulting me?" "Yes," the others, including Sanji himself, chorused. "More like stating the facts," said Ace, who had just woken up from the floor. The others glared at him. He was so going to get it later. XXXXX. Everyone aside from Zoro, Koza and Sabo were now in the living room since Ace had carried the still unconscious Long Nose, waiting for the three guys to arrive. "I can't believe even the Marimo was in this," Sanji muttered, gritting his teeth. "He's dead the second I see him." "Who's dead?" Zoro asked as he came to the living room, Koza and Sabo behind him. "Besides, I wasn't in it, I just happened to realize what was going on during Ace's story." "And yet you said nothing to the rest of us," Nami said with a glare, but Zoro just rolled his eyes. "It's Halloween, and besides, why would have I ruined the fun?" "He has a point," Ace said, but shut up after receiving glares. "This was his doing in the first place, so maybe he should just shut up." "Whatever," Sanji said, moving his attention to Sabo. "And who the hell are you?" "The name's Sabo, I am Luffy's older brother," Sabo said with a bow, tipping his top hat. "It's nice to meet you." "And bang, your position as the gentleman of the group has been challenged," Koza whispered to Sanji, who shot him a glare. "Shut it, Sandhead." "Why didn't you guys say you were coming?" Luffy asked, adding with a frown. "And why did Ace know but I didn't?" "Because you wouldn't have been able to keep the secret," Zoro said. "Deal with it." Luffy frowned, and Nami could almost see how the light bulb above his head suddenly turned on. "But they didn't tell you either," Luffy pointed out to Zoro. "Does that mean they think you wouldn't have been able to keep the secret either?" Quote. Zoro didn't answer. Instead, he turned his attention to Sabo, asking, "Why wasn't I told about this?" "I thought Ace told you," the blonde said, but the freckle-faced man said in return, "and I thought you did it." "You guys are hopeless," Zoro said with a sigh. "Why are we just standing around?" Luffy asked suddenly. "This is supposed to be a party." "Agreed," Ace said. "Should we wake Usopp?" "Just leave it, he wakes up when he wakes up," Zoro said. "Time for round 2 and pillow fight." "Ready for a beating, Lou?" Sabo asked as he picked up a pillow. Ace laughed, doing the same. "How about we just beat up the three who caused this mess?" Nami asked. The brothers paled as they saw the others smirk, clearly liking Nami's idea. "Well shit," Ace said as he and Sabo did their best to defend themselves. Robin, on the other hand, was doing quite well. After all, the drug gave her multiple pairs of arms to defend herself with. Even though Luffy had to share his candies with the others, he still had a great Halloween. He had food, his friends and his brothers. What else would he need? And I have her too. Chapter 34, Christmas Presents. Time flew by fast, and it was already December 15th. There was a lot of snow outside, and it was way too cold to be eating on the roof, so Luffy's little gang could be found from the said boys' class. "What are you guys going to do on Christmas?" Ace asked, munching on his apple. "Nojiko and I will go back to our home village," Nami said, "but we'll probably come back before New Year to spend it here." "Mine and Vivi's families will spend the Christmas together, like every year," Koza said. Their fathers were good friends, and this tradition had been going on over 10 years already. "I'll go to the dojo, I suppose," Zoro said with a sigh as he remembered a certain swordswoman. "Christmas is supposed to be peaceful. You can come to spend the Christmas at my place like Luffy does, my caretaker won't mind," Ace said, but soon corrected himself. "Or actually she will, but it won't matter. That hag hates everyone anyway." "You lack manners as badly as Luffy," Sanji said. "I'll spend the Christmas in the restaurant I work at." "I'll just be at home with my family," Margaret said, "and Kaya's coming over this year." Does this mean we can't throw a Christmas party? Luffy asked. I'm surprised you realized it on your own, Koza said. We'll just have to make the New Year's party even better. Problem solved. But two's always better than one, Luffy pointed out with a pout. Haven't you ever heard of quality? Sanji asked. Then let's have two great parties, Luffy said. Quality in numbers, huh? Ace asked. Not a bad idea, but I think most of us will want to be with our families in Christmas, so I suppose it won't work. Exactly, so give up Luffy, Koza said. This Christmas you'll have to do with just driving your family crazy instead of us. Sorry, but we're all immune to it already, Ace said with a chuckle, and I think Zoro's too. I'd be dead already if I wasn't immune, the swordsman agreed. Why are you guys insulting me again? Luffy asked with a frown. Because you're easy to insult, Koza replied simply. Can't we just talk about Zoro's bad sense of direction? Luffy asked, making the others laugh. Oi, Zoro protested, my sense of direction is perfectly fine. Yeah, you just lost it long time ago, Usopp said, making the others laugh. Usopp, I swear that someday I'll break that unnaturally long nose of yours, Zoro muttered with a glare, making the long nose gulp. Anyway, he started, wanting to change the subject. What will we do about the Christmas presents? Since we won't be having a Christmas party, that might be a problem, Sanji said. Glancing at Usopp he said, but it seems you have an idea. Of course great Usopp, have a great idea that. Just spit it out, Koza said with an annoyed sigh. Usopp's eyebrow twitched, but he decided to tell anyway. Fine, he said. Kaya, did you make them? Yes, the blonde girl said, and everyone's attention was on her now. She took out a small paper bag, handing it to Usopp. Here. Inside of this we have tags with everyone's names on them, Usopp said. So here's what we'll do. Everyone takes one tag and whoever's name is on it is the person you have to get a Christmas present for. We can give them when the school ends, on December 22nd. Sounds good enough, Zoro said. And we don't have to spend so much money either, added Nami with a satisfied smile. I suppose there's no right to change the tag after you've taken it? Ace asked. Unless it has your own name on it. No, Usopp confirmed, that wouldn't be fun. Sounds interesting, Sanji said. I'm in. Me too. Likewise. I suppose we all are, Zoro said. Right. Everyone nodded, so Luffy decided, alright. I'll take the first one. Taking a tag he smiled. This was just what he wanted, Yosh. Everyone took one tag, checking them. Hey, Margaret chuckled, couldn't have hoped for anyone easier. Glad to see someone was lucky, Koza said, sighing in annoyance. Lady Luck was definitely mad at him for something. You aren't the only one with bad luck, Zoro said, having no idea what to give to the person whose name he'd picked, of all the people. This shouldn't be too hard, probably, Nami said with a sweat drop, but reminded herself that she could have gotten someone much harder. XXXXX. Most of them went to search for a present on the very same day, not wanting to leave it for the last minute. One of them was Koza, who felt like banging his head against the wall. Aside from Vivi, he'd never bought a gift to a girl. What the hell was he supposed to give? And to that bitch of all the people. Definitely something cheap, that much is obvious, he thought. He'd hoped he'd get Luffy, a package of meat, and the guy would have been satisfied, but no, he had to get much harder case. Bad luck with the tags, huh? Koza turned around to see Zoro behind him. Yeah, the blonde admitted, you too I suppose. Women are so troublesome, was the swordsman's annoyed reply. Tell me about it, Koza agreed. So, which one is it? XXXXX. Hey Ace, who'd you get? Luffy asked from his brother as they walked towards the shops. Sorry Luffy, but I'm not gonna tell you, Ace said. You'd just spill the beans. I would not. Luffy protested, and if you don't tell me I won't tell you. You don't need to tell me, I'm pretty sure about who it is, Ace said with a smirk, but Luffy just blurted out, I don't believe you. But it's true, Ace said, you seemed pretty happy about it, so it's not me. We give presents to each other every Christmas anyway. And I suppose that rules out Zoro, too. Ace glanced at Luffy from the corner of his eye. As he saw his little brother sweating, he knew he was on the right track. You and Usopp seem pretty close, so it could be him, Ace said, but personally I'm pretty sure it's Nami. Ace turned to look at Luffy, but the younger boy turned his head away. Whistling innocently, he said, Nah Nami. Of course it's not her. Did you already decide what you'll get for her? Ace asked, deciding to ignore what his little brother said, knowing he was lying. Yeah, but I ain't telling you so. He paused suddenly before correcting himself. I mean, it's not Nami. Ace just rolled his eyes, knowing that he'd managed to get Luffy to spill the beans under an hour. That's how easy it'll be. XXXXX. You got lucky, Kaya. Margaret said as she walked into a shop with her friend. I wish I could be the one giving Ace a present. But I don't know what to give to him, Kaya said. At least you have it easy. Can't deny that, Margaret admitted, but there's nothing fun in giving a present to a guy like him. He's like a little kid. I suppose so, Kaya said. She knew that Margaret wanted to switch and was trying to get her to do so, but she wouldn't. It was against the rules after all. XXXXX. Usopp. Yeah, you got Kaya's name, right. The long nose looked down at his small, dark-skinned friend in surprise, asking, how did you know? Why else would you have bought an expensive necklace? Chopper asked. Usopp laughed nervously, saying, well, it could have been for Nami, or Vivi. Chopper gave him a deadpan look, which was rare from the younger boy. Usopp's sweat dropped, saying, right, stupid excuse. So, whose name did you get? Chopper showed Usopp the tag since he still had it and the long nose laughed, saying, no wonder you bought a pillow. Chapter 35, Christmas Date. It was December 22nd, school was ending for the year and it was time for Luffy and his friends to give the presents. The hell? Koza asked from Sanji, holding a book titled, The Key to Good Manners. Though you might need it, Sanji said with a chuckle and the others laughed. Okay, who's next? We'll see, Nami said, out of the ring, Sanji-kun. Spin the bottle, Koza. Koza did as told, and the bottle pointed at Kaya, so now it was her turn to give a present. Here, Kaya said, handing her present to Ace. Thanks, he said, opening it. Chocolate. Koza asked as he saw what she gave to the older guy, so ordinary. Shut it, Sandhead, bet you're just jealous, Sanji said. Glaring at him, Koza shot back, well, it would have been better than your gift. Both of you shut up. Nami hissed, spin the bottle, Ace. Right, the freckles-faced man said, doing as told. The bottle ended up pointing at Nami, who slid her present across the floor to Usopp. Let's see. Usopp muttered as he unwrapped the present, a new water gun. Cool. Luffy broke my another one last month and. Usopp paused suddenly as he noticed everyone laughing. What? Told you he's like a kid, Zoro said to Ace, who laughed so hard he might fall over soon. I can't believe that guy. Margaret said as she leaned on Kaya's, who was also giggling, shoulder for support. You know Usopp, that thing's loaded, Nami said suddenly. It took a moment for the long nose to register her words, but when he did, he grinned. Oh shit, Zoro muttered, everyone's laughter dying down. Run, Luffy called out. They ran around in the otherwise empty classroom where they shouldn't be anymore but which Shanks had, forgotten, to lock for a while before sitting down again. Prepare to eat snow when we get out, Usopp, Zoro told the long nose with a glare, making the younger boy gulp. Wanting to change the subject, he spun the bottle. Your turn, Vivi, Koza said, and Vivi handed her present to Luffy, who ripped the paper off faster than Zoro gets lost. Taking out a book he blinked, reading the title out loud, Cooking for Morons. What? The others, including Vivi, asked. Why'd you buy him a book? Scratch that, what's up with the title? Koza asked. I mean, I can see what, but that's not like you at all, Vivi. It wasn't supposed to be anything like that. Vivi was fast to react. I mean, I did want to buy him a book since he reads so little, but I didn't know what kind, so I asked Nami for help and, well. And I just thought that'd fit him well, Nami said with a shrug, and it does, doesn't it? Can't disagree with that, Ace said with a chuckle. Maybe he could try to learn to cook on his own now. Not in my kitchen, Sanji said. I don't want it to be ruined. Aren't you guys a bit too mean? Vivi asked, but the others just shook their heads. Nah, just realistic. Luffy spun the bottle, making it point at Zoro, who gave his present to Vivi. Box of chocolates. Margaret asked after Vivi had opened her present. That's lame. Shut up, Zoro said simply, momentarily wishing he'd gotten Margaret or Nami. To them he could have bought something not so nice, but since he had gotten Vivi he had to get something normal. Now it was Vivi's turn to spin the bottle, and it ended up pointing at Luffy. I don't have it with me, the teen said. Idiot, Koza summed up with a sigh, somehow I kind of saw this coming. I didn't forget it, it's just something I couldn't bring, Luffy defended himself, I'll show it after school. Sure, we believe you, Margaret said with a roll of her eyes, it better not have been my gift. No, it was Nami's, Luffy replied. The orange-haired woman sighed, muttering, just my luck. It's the law of karma, Koza said, blame yourself for buying that book. But my present is good, Luffy defended himself, realizing he was being insulted again. Sure, Koza said, spin the bottle Nami, this is getting boring. Shut up, Nami said, spinning the bottle anyway. It pointed at Chopper. Zoro. Chopper called, tossing the present to the older guy, who caught it easily. Opening the present he pulled out a big and fluffy dark green pillow. Exactly what you needed, ain't it? Usopp asked, not that you'd need a pillow to fall asleep, but you get the point. Shut up, Zoro said, thanks, Chopper. Zoro spun the bottle, making it Usopp's turn to give his gift. Yosh, it's time for the great Usopp-sama to give his present. The long nose said, giving the small package to Kaya, here. Kaya took out the necklace, leaning away from Margaret, who came over to check it. Wow, Margaret said, looks like Usopp does have some good sides after all. Is that how you define a person's worth? Zoro asked. Bitch, you know that's not what I meant, Margaret said with a glare. Is there any other way to understand that? Zoro asked, getting an answer from Koza. As far as I know, no. Stop it guys, let's not fight before Christmas, Kaya said. Thank you Usopp, it's lovely. To avoid more fighting, Kaya spun the bottle, making it point at Margaret. Still not my turn to get a present, huh? She muttered as she handed her present to Chopper. Thanks, the boy said happily, tearing the paper off. Yay, it's cotton candy. Cotton candy? Koza asked from Margaret with a raised eyebrow. Seriously? He likes it, which means I made the right choice, Margaret said, sticking her tongue out. Deal with it. You just had it easy, Usopp put in. It's not that hard to please Chopper. Margaret was about to say something, but Nami did so before her. Both of you cut it out. I'll spin the bottle. Chopper cheered and the bottle was next pointed at Koza. Looks like I'll get rid of this after all, he said, sending his present to Margaret by sliding it across the floor. Margaret took it, but had a bad feeling. She had caught the smirk on Koza's face as the bottle had pointed at him. It better not be anything disgusting, Margaret mumbled as she started to open the present. So did you put in the worms? Zoro asked, making Margaret freeze. Catching on immediately, Koza replied, you'll see. They're pulling your leg, Usopp told Margaret. If it had worms they would have made air holes on it. Why'd you have to spoil the fun? Zoro asked as Margaret glared at him and Koza. You guys are jerks, she said as she continued to open the present. Koza and Zoro started laughing the second Margaret saw what was inside. They knew when she'd seen it from the look on her face. Manners for Morons. Kaya read the title. I wonder if it's same series with Luffy's Cooking for Morons. Very funny guys, Margaret said with a roll of her eyes. I'm just dying of laughter here. We know it's not something you wanted, but you definitely need it, Koza said, ignoring the glare he got. Admit it. I do have manners, I just see no need in using them around an idiot like you, she defended. Your harsh words are making my soul bleed, Koza said with a chuckle. There's only one present left, right? Let's get this over with. Agreed, Ace said. Catch, Sanji. Sanji caught the present easily, taking a note of its lightness. It wasn't a book that much he was sure of. Opening it, he took out a pair of yellow rubber gloves. Pink just isn't your color, Ace explained simply, so I thought you could use those. The others laughed at that while Sanji just stared at the pair of gloves before shrugging. Whatever, he said, thanks. Okay, that was all, Nami said. We should probably get going before the teacher catches us, we aren't supposed to be here. Some of the others could catch irritation in her voice, and it was not hard to guess why. She was mad cause she hadn't gotten her present. Yeah, let's go so that I can show you your present. Luffy cheered, but his smile fell as Nami told him. Nojiko and I decided to leave right after school. It'll have to wait a few days, sorry. Actually, it doesn't, Ace said. I had a feeling Luffy might screw up by not taking a note of your schedule, so I talked to Nojiko beforehand. She said you two can leave tomorrow morning. See? Luffy asked, you can see your present today. Looks like it, Nami said, but you really need to learn to consider other people's plans too. Why? Things worked out fine. Nami let out an annoyed sigh, saying, yeah, thanks to your brother. Luffy shrugged, saying, doesn't matter, let's go. Nami sighed. Despite having a feeling she was going to regret it later, she followed the boy out of the class and the whole school. XXXXX. Luffy, where exactly are we going? Nami asked as they walked through the heavy snow in the woods. If it was someone else she would have started doubting something already, but this was Luffy. He was way too stupid to try something. We're almost there. Almost where? Nami asked as she struggled to keep up with Luffy. You'll see, was Luffy's answer. Nami cursed in her mind. Who was it again that said Luffy couldn't keep a secret? We're here. They stopped and Nami looked around, but saw nothing special. Only trees and snow. Crossing her arms, she asked, where exactly is here? Look up. Nami did so, a bit annoyed already. Her eyes widened as she saw a lot of colorful lights lit up in a huge tree, lined up in a way that made it look like a heart. Wow, she breathed out. The best is still coming, Luffy said as he sneaked his arm around her waist. All Nami could do was say, what? Before she saw Luffy's arm stretch out, taking a hold of a big branch high up in the tree. Here we go, Luffy said before jumping, causing both of them to fly upwards fast. Nami let out a scream, tightly holding onto Luffy. After they had landed and Nami had caught her breath, she hit Luffy on the head, yelling, don't ever do that again. But wasn't it fun? Luffy asked. Nami's punch hadn't hurt, after all he was rubber at the moment. No, it was dangerous and scary, so never do it again. Nami told, her voice getting louder with every word. But nothing bad happened, Luffy insisted, causing him to get hit again. It was still dangerous and something could have happened, so don't do it again, especially without a warning and in a place like this. Nami yelled again. Luffy pouted, but decided to stop arguing. They shouldn't ruin the night, okay. They were both quiet for a while until Nami asked, what exactly are we doing here? Eating, Luffy answered, and only then Nami noticed all the food in there, set like for a picnic. She didn't think it'd get too cold either, there were blankets and candles everywhere. Besides, it luckily wasn't that cold today. Only -4 Celsius. They sat down on the pillows, talking about everyone and everything as they ate. XXXXX. Ace, take your foot off of my head will you? Sabo asked as he lay down in a tree not too far away from the one Luffy and Nami were in. The hell you talking about? I'm on a branch below you, it can't be my foot, his brother told back, rolling his eyes. Huh, then who's sitting above me? The blonde asked, looking up before groaning. Of course. Something wrong, Sabo-kun. Robin asked with a sly smirk. Do you mind taking your leg off of my head? The blonde asked, it's not a platform. Robin seemed to think for a moment before answering. No, I like it where it is. Sabo glared at her, but she just smiled back as innocently as she could. I suppose it's obvious who's on the top in that relationship, Nojiko commented from the branch next to Robin's. Sabo's face went red, but before he was able to say that they weren't in a relationship, Ace beat him to it. They're not in a relationship, he said. Sabo's way too slow. Wah, I see, Nojiko said, adjusting her binoculars as she kept an eye on Luffy and Nami. Is that a family fault by chance? The heck are you trying to say? Ace asked, looking up at her with a raised eyebrow. Oh, nothing, Nojiko said, whistling innocently. Ace narrowed his eyes, but focused his attention on Zoro as he said from the highest branch, will you guys shut up for a moment and try to concentrate? Wasn't it you who suggested we spy them on the first place? It's not like the three of you weren't enjoying this, too, Ace said. You're lucky Robin, you're even capable of listening them with your drug power. And yet it's probably hard since everyone keeps talking, Nojiko said, so shut it. You were talking too, Ace protested, but was shut up by Robin who covered his mouth with an extra hand. Look, Nojiko shouted out suddenly, turning everyone's attention to the other tree completely. XXXXX. Luffy, what are you doing? Nami asked as Luffy's hand came to her face. You have cream on your face, the boy said simply, wiping it off with his finger. Nami's sweat dropped, more to herself than to him, tough. For a moment she had thought he was going to kiss her, but that was a stupid idea, this was Luffy after all. Right, she said, I could have wiped it away by myself, you know. But you were too slow, Luffy said, and Nami had a sudden urge to test if his rubber ability would prevent him from getting hurt if she pushed him off the tree. Even if it did, she couldn't come up with any other good side in the rubber drug. Say Luffy, is that rubber drug actually useful in some way? She decided to ask. I fell from the roof once, but I didn't get injured since I had just taken the drug, Luffy told, looking like he was thinking, and it's easier to reach things with stretchable arms. Is that all? Nami asked. Luffy just shrugged and then grinned, saying, it's a fun ability. Right, she said, sweat dropping, or you're simply just an idiot. XXXXX. I can't believe we sat there the whole night and those two didn't even kiss. Ace complained as he walked home with Sabo, Zoro and Robin. Nojiko had taken off the second she got down from the tree. It can't be helped, he's a little slow, Sabo said, besides he's got about as much experience with women as Zoro's got a sense of direction. Oi, Zoro protested, making the others laugh. As far as I know Ace has never even kissed anyone and Sabo's still not making any process with asking Robin out. Ace and Sabo flushed red, but Robin continued laughing, only harder now. Who said I've been planning to ask her out in the first place? Sabo yelled. Zoro smirked, meeting eyes with Robin for a split second. Oh, he wondered, does this mean you have no romantic feelings towards her? Sabo was about to respond, but got no word out of his mouth. What was he supposed to say since Robin was there too? I don't need to answer that, was what he settled on. In other words, he's still too chicken to confess his love, Ace summed up, getting hit by Sabo as a result. Shut up. As the brothers fought, the other two walked on with the older one talking. Could it be that you and Ace went a bit far? Nah, Zoro said, besides you're already aware of his feelings, no. Yes, Robin admitted, but I don't know how serious he is about me, so. So you're too much of a chicken to confess first, Zoro summed up. Sabo's a great guy, you know, if you don't hurry someone will snatch him from you. Could that someone perhaps be you? Robin asked with a smirk, intending to make fun of Zoro, but she saw it failed as he smirked back, saying only one word, maybe. Chapter 36, Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. Luffy cheered the first thing in the morning as he woke up. Ace, Sabo, wake up, it's Christmas. Shut it, Luffy, we're trying to sleep here. Ace yelled, punching him on the head. He and his two little brothers were at his house, sleeping side by side with Luffy in the middle like in the good old times. Every year, Sabo says as he watches Luffy run out of the room, can't he let us sleep at least once? Looks like he can't, Ace said, and as much as I'd like to stay in bed we need to get up if we don't want him to eat the whole breakfast. Yep, Sabo said, should we wake up Dayton? The brothers looked at each other before both of them got up, saying, nah. XXXXX. You brats, you didn't leave me anything to eat. Stop complaining, you old bat, Ace said, it's not like the three of us were the only ones eating. Don't put the blame on us. Protested a bunch of men, Dayton's underlings. This couldn't get any worse, Dayton said just before aloud. Ho ho ho, was heard from the front door, followed by loud laughter. If there's someone up there, he definitely hates me. Hey, that voice. Ace started fearfully. It's Gramps. Luffy realized in horror. Quick, let's hide in the attic. Too obvious, we've done that too many times. Sabo protested, under the dining table, now. But then we might not even get out of there by lunch. Ace argued. Sighing, Sabo snapped at his brothers, which is worse, getting beat up by the geezer or missing lunch? Missing lunch, the brothers answered without missing a beat. Sabo's eyebrow twitched before he sighed. His brothers were hopeless. Well, few seconds, till the traditional Christmas beating. Prepare yourselves, my brothers. XXXXX. Isn't it time to open the presents already? Luffy asked an hour after they'd finished their dinner. We're still waiting for boss, Sabo said, making Garp scowl. Do we really have to wait for that useless son of mine? I want to open the presents already. He's worse than Luffy when he wants. Sabo muttered with a sweat drop. The geezer has a point tough, and I don't think Dragon would mind either, Ace said, so why not? How about the fact that he's bringing most of the presents? Sabo said. Luffy and Garp looked at each other, declaring at the same time, we'll wait for him. I suppose their stupidity is useful sometimes, Sabo thought with a sweat drop. This is gonna be a long night, tough, bet they'll be complaining the whole time until Dragon comes. Fortunately, it only took 2 hours for the man to arrive. What took you so long, you useless brat? Garp asked as Dragon stepped in. Merry Christmas to you too, was the younger man's dry reply. Maybe I shouldn't have bought all these presents after all. Gramps doesn't need his, but I didn't do anything, Luffy told, coming out from behind Garp. What was that? Garp asked, hitting his grandson on the head. Do you have to beat up my son all the time? Dragon asked, not that he was angry, just a bit annoyed. Indeed, he should beat up his own son instead, don't you agree? Robin asks, coming inside from behind Dragon. Yeah, Luffy cheered immediately. Dragon glared at Robin, saying, I knew taking you along would bite me in the ass sooner or later. Looks like it was the sooner, Garp said, cracking his knuckles with a huge smile. Prepare yourself, brat. Have fun, Robin said with a chuckle as Dragon ran out of the house with Garp in tow. Dad and Gramps left, Luffy said with smile, let's go open the presents now. Won't they get mad? Robin asked, but Luffy only answered, that's a problem for that time. Robin chuckled, following the boy to the large combination of living room and dining room where his brothers and Dayton's group already waited at. Where are boss and the old geezer? Sabo asked as he noticed the two. Having some father-son time outside, Robin replied, making Sabo sweat drop, as in beating each other up and running away. Pretty much, she said, looks like Ace and Luffy are already opening their presents. Won't you join in? I'd rather sit here and wait than get beat up for opening my presents before the geezer got here, he said with a chuckle. Those two just don't know how to think ahead. Indeed, people like them die young, Robin said with a calm smile, scaring the hell out of Sabo once again. Can't you stop that at least for today? He deadpanned, it's Christmas for God's sake. This is just who I am, Robin replied, it's like denying meat from Luffy. Sabo's sweat dropped, saying, I can see your point, but wasn't that a bit too much? Robin didn't answer, just turned to watch the two young men. She recalled being that exited with presents at the age of 6 last time, or was it 5? She couldn't exactly remember. She glanced at Sabo, wondering why he had turned out to be so different from his brothers. Could the main reason be something that happened even before he met them? What the hell? Garp's voice broke Robin's line of thoughts. You kids started to open the presents without me. The youngest and the eldest of the brothers paled while the third one just sat on the couch, preparing to watch the other two get beaten. Being the smart one did have its benefits. After Garp had calmed down and the presents had been opened, Dragon told Luffy to get up, wishing to speak with him privately. What? Luffy asked after they were out of everyone else's earshot. Well, you see, at the start of the next year. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is In His Shadow by Mikila. Chapter 37, Happy New Year. So what did Dragon say? Zoro asked from Luffy. It was New Year's Eve and the first guests were still on their way. He's going on a trip, Luffy said. Zoro raised an eyebrow, asking, and that was something worth telling you about because he wants me to go with him this time, Luffy said. Zoro said nothing, waiting for him to continue. It's not like he's going to Roger's territory, but still pretty far, Luffy said, excitement starting to show on his face. It'd be great practice for the time I go to Roger's territory. Yeah, it would, Zoro said with a small smirk, but he had a feeling there was a but here. But what would make Luffy hesitate going on an adventure? He was probably just imagining it. But, oh, so he wasn't imagining it, Luffy really did hesitate. But I'm not sure if I should, not now. Luffy said, I'm finally making progress with Nami, Zoro finished for him. Maybe the swordsman was a bit dense at times, but he wasn't blind. And he knew Luffy. Yeah, Luffy said, maybe I should stay so I don't mess up. You might mess up even if you stay, women are troublesome like that, Zoro said, besides, a woman who'd stop a man from following his dream isn't worth the trouble. I don't get what you're trying to say, Luffy told. Zoro had been expecting it, things needed to be said directly to Luffy, otherwise he wouldn't get it. Take the risk, Zoro said, getting up as the doorbell rang. First guests were coming, is what I'm saying. Luffy had no idea why it felt so hard. He had always been the action now, thinking later kind of guy, so why was he thinking so hard now? I've always known thinking's not good for health, Luffy thought with a sigh. It was definitely healthier to be carefree and not to think so much. Alright, you're first to arrive, Zoro said as he opened the door for Koza, high-fiving with him. Vivi's not with you. Nah, she's having some girl time with the others before the party, Koza said, shrugging. Don't know what that means and to be honest I don't wanna know either. Yeah, that's probably for the best. XXXXX. How about a game of Never Have I Ever? Ace asked as everyone had gotten tired of singing and dancing, sitting in the living room talking about whatever came to their minds. Fine by me, Sabo said. He and Robin had been invited in the last minute but had made it anyway. How about we make it a little more interesting? Nojiko asked. Nami had asked Luffy if she could come too and naturally the guy didn't have anything against it. It had been harder to get Nojiko to agree, but in the end it seemed she was enjoying herself in the party. What do you have in mind? Zoro asked. He doubted it was the original drinking version and the raising hands thing had been pretty lame, so he didn't mind hearing what the woman had to say. Smirking, Nojiko said, Never have I ever, stripped version. I'm in, Sanji shouted immediately. Figures, Zoro muttered with a glare. Well, why not? Sounds good, Nami said. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, Vivi said, making Kaya agree instantly. You can give up the second you want, Koza said, pulling out some money. How about this? Everyone puts in 1,000 bilais as a prize. The one who's last in the game with some clothes on gets everything. I'm in, Frankie said, causing everyone to look at him. What? With that outfit it's easy for you to lose, you know, Sabo said. I'm in too by the way. Everyone exchanged looks with each other and, one by one, put 1,000 bilais in the growing pile. In the end, everyone was playing. Mind if I start? Robin asked. After she got everyone's approval she said, Never have I ever walked through the city without pants or a skirt. Everyone snickered at Frankie who put away his sunglasses in annoyance. You did that on purpose, Nico Robin. Not super at all, he said. My turn. Isn't this a bit unfair? Usopp asked. I mean some of us have way more clothes on than the others. You should have thought that before agreeing to play, Nami said, sticking her tongue out at him. Deal with it. Like I said. My turn, Frankie said. Never have I ever worn a skirt. Everyone watched as the girls took something off, blinking when Sabo and Sanji moved their ties, the later cursing like a sailor. What the hell guys? Nami asked, raising eyebrow. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Koza or Zoro. Oi, but you, especially you, Sanji-kun. I was drunk, he said, really drunk. Are you sure you don't just enjoy stuff like that? Zoro asked with a smirk. Narrowing his eyes, Sanji asked, what was that, Marimo? Cut it out, Nami hissed, turning to Sabo, and what's your excuse? Ask her, Sabo hissed, glaring murderously at Robin. Everyone turned to look at the woman, who just giggled and said, You're the one who suggested we take part in the play. But you were supposed to be the sleeping beauty, not me. Sabo grumbled, making everyone laugh. You should have mentioned that earlier. So who played the prince? Margaret asked. Smiling, Robin said, that was me. I suppose we don't need to wonder who's the boss in the house when you two get married. Then, Ace said, causing Sabo to yell with a red face, we're not a couple. Yeah, 'cause you're slow, Zoro said. At this rate Luffy and Nami are married before you even confess. Keep us out of this. Nami yelled, hitting Zoro on the head. The others, including Luffy, laughed. Well then, shall we continue? Ace asked. Never have I ever left something on my plate. Everyone save for Ace and Luffy took something off. I thought you don't waste food, curly brow, Zoro said with a smirk as he tossed his bandana away. Last time I wasted food was almost 10 years ago. The blonde snapped. I wonder when was the last time you found your way to the place you were going to without a problem. Why you? Cut it out already. Nami yelled, hitting them on the heads. Who's next? Me. Chopper said, I've never played poker. Ace chuckled, taking off his first article of clothing. Luffy did the same, putting his hat on the floor next to him. Ah crap, there goes my last, Frankie said. I lost. Koza took off his jacket, Margaret the shoe that she still had and so did Nami. Nojiko took off her first shoe and Robin removed one of her boots. Sabo got rid of his coat, Sanji of his shirt for the ladies, or so he said. Usopp took off one shoe and Zoro put his jacket down. The ones who didn't take anything off along with Chopper were Kaya and Vivi. Do you three even know how to play? Zoro asked them and they shook their heads. We'll definitely have to teach you after this, Nojiko decided. Who's next? I've never taken a devil's drug, said Zoro. Only the three brothers and Robin got rid of some of their clothes after this. I wonder which goes off next. Nico Robin, the skirt or the top? Frankie wondered with a sly grin, earning a glare from Sabo. Noticing this, Frankie said, "Hey, don't get jealous bro, not super. Besides, I was just saying, I'm not gonna steal your woman or anything." "The hell?" Sabo yelled, making everyone laugh. "That guy's crush is obvious alright," Nojiko thought while rolling her eyes. Glancing at Luffy, she couldn't help but think, maybe it's a family fault. By now it was obvious to her Luffy had a thing for her sister. It had become sure after their little spy tour before Christmas. "May I say the next one?" Kaya asked. "Sure, go ahead." "Never have I ever gotten a detention," Kaya said. Ace threw his boot at Luffy, demanding him to take off his remaining sandal. Koza took off a shoe, laughing as Margaret cursed and took off her top. "This is why this is a good game," Sanji yelled. "Cause it's the only situation you can see a shirtless woman in." Zoro questioned, earning a glare from Sanji. "Don't even think about it, Sanji-kun," Nami hissed, not allowing the two to start a fight. After that, she took off her remaining shoe together with Nojiko. Sabo's other shoe got off as well as Sanji's and Usopp's. The last one to remove something was Zoro, also taking off a shoe. "Never have I ever fallen down the stairs," Robin said. "Neither would we have if Luffy didn't push us," Sabo grumbled, taking off a sock while Ace took off a shoe. "Sorry. Looks like I'll be losing another shoe," Vivi said, taking off her shoe. "Just the three of you?" Koza asked. "Well, I suppose that makes you the clumsy trio." "Never have I ever slipped and hit my head while on shower," was Vivi's answer to that. Blushing, Koza took off his another shoe, cursing as he noticed no one else did anything. "And you call us clumsy," Sabo said. "Whatever," the younger blonde grumbled. "Never have I ever broken into someone's house." Rolling his eyes, Sanji said, "Like any of us would have done something like that." He stopped mid-sentence as he saw Nami take off her blouse and Nojiko removing her belt. "The hell, you criminal sisters?" Zoro asked. "Not that I'm surprised. We just broke into the house of our home village's sheriff when we were kids. It's no big deal," Nojiko said. "Are we really the only ones tough? Does it count as a break-in when we went to Makino's house that one time?" Luffy asked, making Sabo shake his head. "No," he said, "the door wasn't locked so it wasn't a break-in." "Another group of criminals," Zoro said with a sweat drop. "Never have I ever run into a wall," Nojiko said. Vivi took off her another sock and Luffy his shirt. "It was a glass wall," she said as the others started snickering. "Yeah. But you've also run into ordinary walls, Lou," Sabo pointed out, making everyone laugh. "Never have I ever sprained my wrists," Nami said. "The heck was that?" Zoro asked. Koza ended up taking off a sock while Nojiko took off her shirt. The last one to take something off was Robin, removing her belt. "Got a problem with it?" Nami asked. "Come up with something more interesting," Zoro said. "Well, how about you show us some good example," Nojiko said. "Sure," the swordsman said. "Never have I ever believed one of Usopp's lies." "Oi," the long-nose protested. "That wasn't any better than mine," Nami muttered, taking off her top. To her defense, she could mention that it was in the beginning when she didn't know Usopp or anyone too well yet. "I hate to admit it, but," Ace muttered, taking off his t-shirt. "No kidding," Koza said, taking off a sock. "I think I'm out," Margaret said, not willing to strip just to her undergarments. "What, you're backing out?" Nami asked, taking off her skirt. There was money on the line, although she wouldn't be willing to take off her undergarments. Sanji took off a shoe, all the while not taking his eyes off of Nami. As Vivi took off a sock, Kaya voiced her thoughts. I'm not exactly sure if I've ever believed any of his lies or not." "Yeah," Chopper and Luffy said. "You two definitely have," Sanji told them, "but we can't be sure about Kaya-chan." "We have," the boys asked, making the others groan. "Yes you have," Zoro confirmed, "many times." Luffy shrugged, taking off his shorts. "Well, somebody knows no shame," Nami mumbled, turning her head away. "Bet you enjoy that," Nojiko whispered to her, making Nami elbow her sister on the side. "Never have I ever gotten caught sleeping in class," Sanji said. Zoro rolled his eyes, taking off a shoe. Ace took off his first sock, asking from Zoro, "Which of us do you think has done it more?" "You were homeschooled, so probably Zoro," Sabo reasoned, "but at least he never falls asleep in the middle of the street." "Shut up," Ace said, rolling his eyes. Luffy frowned as he suddenly realized something. He was out of the game now as he had been caught sleeping in class way more than once. "No fair," he complained, "stupid game." "Shut up and take your loss like a man," Koza said as he stripped himself off his shirt. Chopper took off his remaining shoe, having taken the first one off when asked about Usopp's lying. "Quilty," Sabo confessed, taking off a sock. "Yup," Usopp said and a sock went flying. However, everyone was shocked as Kaya took off her shoe. "The hell? You're kidding right?" Koza asked. Kaya the goody two-shoes slept in class. Kaya blushed, looking away as she mumbled, "I had a fever back then." "Asshole," Sanji hissed at Koza, glaring at the younger man. "Oops," he said, sweat dropping, "sorry about that." "Never have I ever turned down a free meal," Ace said. Kaya took off a shoe, Koza his belt, Nami and Nojiko dropped out while muttering curses, Robin pulled off her skirt, Sabo his shirt and Vivi her jacket. You really don't seem to have a problem showing yourself, Sabo muttered, turning his face away from Robin. Quit complaining, we all can see you love the sight. Ace teased his brother, winking at Robin, and I admit you're not the only one, right guys? Definitely not, Sanji agreed. It's a super sight, Frankie added. Perverts, Nami mumbled. Scratching his head, Frankie said, you're too kind. It wasn't a compliment, Nami hissed. Never have I ever fallen into a river, Robin said, having witnessed many of the guys still in the game doing so. Damn, Ace said, taking off a sock, you're doing this on purpose. Definitely, Sabo agreed, taking off his belt. You're a real bitch, Koza said with a sigh, I'm out. Don't insult Robin-chan, Sanji yelled, throwing the sock he just took off at Koza. I feel like I was in kindergarten again, Zoro said, also taking off a sock. Close enough, Sabo said, who next? May I? Kaya asked. After receiving nods she said, never have I ever fallen off from a tree. Without a word Ace took off his belt, Usopp his other sock, Vivi her belt and Zoro a sock. Sabo seemed to think for a while before saying, I'm out. How disappointing, Robin said. Sabo, not wanting Robin to be able to humiliate him again, replied, I can give you a private show later if you want. Sabo, who thought he had finally gotten the better of her, went bright red as Robin answered, I'd love that. The others laughed at Sabo's red face and the blonde glared at them, knowing that Ace and Zoro would be reminding him about this for a long time. It would probably be for the best if he'd stop trying to outsmart Robin entirely. Like he'd do that, he'll make her embarrassed one day for sure. Okay guys, moving on, he said with a sigh, hoping they could continue the game. Yeah, for now, Zoro said with a snort, never have I ever been on a date with a woman. I knew you'd say that sooner or later, Ace said, taking off his shorts. He only had his underwear left, so the next one would probably be his last. Sanji took off a sock and Usopp opened the straps of his overalls to get his shirt off. I think I'll quit here, Vivi said, making everyone stare at her. Quote. I've always thought that you're straight. Usopp commented. I am, Vivi said, blushing, it was just the date game Nojiko came up with. You know, that time with Margaret and Ace. Oh, right, Nami said, sweat dropping, I suppose that counts. Never have I ever broken a window, Vivi said. Chopper took off a sock, Ace dropped out along with Usopp, Sanji took off his belt and Zoro took off his shirt. Never have I ever danced in moonlight, Zoro said, making Ace glare at him, asshole. The others laughed as Ace dropped out, but the narcoleptic wanted to make one thing clear, I was drunk. Yet I recall it happening more than once. Sabo muttered with a chuckle. You were both dancing, Luffy stated, making Sabo hiss at him as the others laughed, shut up. Never have I ever burned my food while cooking, Sanji said. Nice try curly brow, but I've rarely ever cooked anything, Zoro said, and I haven't burned anything either. I have, Chopper confessed, taking off his remaining sock, few times. Me too, Kaya admitted, taking off a sock. And so have I, Robin admitted, taking off her corset top, getting cheers from the guys. She wasn't wearing a bra. Are you crazy? Sabo yelled at her, quickly taking off his coat he had just gotten back on and putting it on Robin's shoulders, just give up at that point. Not used to sharing, Frankie asked from Sabo, but only got a glare as a response. Hey Robin, that's cheating. Luffy was the first to say, right Zoro? Ace. Definitely, the other two agreed, but Nojiko disagreed, you guys are just perverts. As long as we don't count the coat as a part of the game it'll be fine. Exactly, Robin said, and I can take the coat off right now if it bothers why. You're keeping it on. Sabo interrupted her, making the others laugh. I suppose seeing Robin shirtless is just too much for you, Ace mocked his brother, not that I blame you, it's an impressive sight. I swear I'll kill you one day, Ace, Sabo mumbled, can you guys just continue the game? I'm sure they'd like to, but Sanji passed out, Nojiko said with a snort, his nose is bleeding. Think the cause was blood loss. Chopper yelled, running over to Sanji. After making a quick check on him he stated, no, he hasn't lost even nearly that much blood. He's fine. In other words he's just a pervert, Koza said, not that I didn't know it before. We can't really continue if one of us is unconscious, can we? Kaya asked. Nope, Ace said, I suggest we just divide the money between the ones still in the game. That's a great idea, Zoro agreed with a smirk. Easy money was always a good thing in his opinion. Since it's Sanji's fault we didn't get to finish the game, how about not giving him anything? Nami suggested. Agreed, Zoro said, so it's 3,700 billies each since there are 4 of us. 3,750, Sabo corrected, do you always sleep through math classes? He sure does, Ace commented. How come you know about that since you always do the same? Nojiko asked, making everyone laugh. This sure went well, Robin commented as she counted the money handed to her. The others looked at her, most of them realizing something. Could it be you planned this when you took your top off? Frankie asked. Who knows, Robin said with a small shrug, but the slight smile on her lips gave her away. She definitely planned this. XXXXX. What is it? Nami asked. Shortly after the game, Luffy had pushed her to the side, away from everyone else's earshot. Ace, Sabo and Robin knew and he had already told Zoro, so now he wanted to tell Nami. In private, I have to tell you something, Luffy says, and he recognizes that he's nervous, which he knows is rare. Well, it hasn't been so rare lately, ever since Nami came around to be exact. Sure, what is it? Nami asked, being able to see his nervousness. If he's going to ask me to distract Sanji while he robs the contents of the fridge like he did at the Halloween party, I'm gonna punch him. My dad's going on a business trip and I'm going with him. Luffy told. Nami blinked, not sure what he was trying to say, so she voiced her thoughts, and you're telling this to me because it's not gonna last just few weeks, Luffy said, it'll be months. Dad said it wouldn't be surprising if it took a year or two. Oh, Nami says as realization starts to draw on her, I didn't know you were interested in business, tough. I don't, Luffy denied immediately, it's just that I can see the world that way. It's not like I'm gonna take part in Dad's business meetings, even if that's what he's actually wishing for. Are you going into Roger's territory? Nami asked, but Luffy shook his head. Nope, Dad has no business there. I think, he said, besides, I want to go there together with my friends, you included. Nami blushed despite knowing she had no reason to do so. It's not like Luffy meant anything by that, right? Anyway, we're leaving in few days and I just wanted to tell you first, Luffy said. Wait, no, second. I already told Zoro. A vein popped on Nami's head, so much for her hopes of being special to him. But then again, Zoro was Luffy's best friend, she supposed it wouldn't be weird if he put the swordsman before her. Besides, it's not like we're even dating, she reminded herself. Well, now that I know you can tell the others, she said. Yup, Luffy said, let's go. After Luffy had told everyone, they had the same comment as Nami did, we didn't know you were interested in business. I'm not. Then why do you want to go? Koza asked, sweat dropping as Luffy said, it's going to be an adventure. Should have known, Usopp said. By the way, what exactly does your dad do? Before Luffy was able to tell an obvious lie, Nami put in, do you honestly think this idiot knows what his father does for a living? Good point, Margaret said, turning to Sabo and Robin, you guys work for him, right? What does he do? The two exchanged quick looks with each other before saying as one, it's classified. So either it's something shady or embarrassing, Koza summed up, a strip club. If it was, I would have run into it by now, Frankie said, so it's probably something shady. Not super, guys. Well, maybe a little shady, but it's legal, Sabo said, I would never break the law. As Ace and Zoro snorted, Sabo added, anymore. I don't even want to know, Nami muttered, eyeing the blonde. Well, in any case, Sabo said, changing the subject, weren't we supposed to play poker? Sounds good, Zoro said, and everyone split in small groups since poker would have been quite hard with 15 people. XXXXX. It was few minutes, till midnight as Nami sat down next to Luffy, who was eating pizza while leaning on the wall. They sat in silence for a while before Nami said, hey, Luffy. Yeah, how long do you think it'll take for you to come back? Dunno, he said, but that reminds me of something, what was it again? Nami could almost see the gears turning in Luffy's head as he thought hard. Looks like he remembered it, she thought as Luffy's face lit up like a light bulb. He had clearly remembered what he wanted to say. Oh yeah, he said, I remember now. 10. Well, spit it out, Nami said, not joining to the countdown to midnight the others started. 9. Well, I just wanted to ask. 8. For you to wait for me. 7. Huh, Nami questioned, blinking. 6. When I come back. 5. I want to go out with you. 4. Nami was speechless, not having predicted this. She thought that she'd be able to tell right away if Luffy tried to ask her out, but no, it came as a real surprise. 3. Can we? Luffy asked when Nami didn't answer. 2. Nami smiled, and for once the dumb young man didn't need a verbal answer, that smile was all he needed. Slowly they both leaned forward. 1. Until their lips touched. Happy New Year. Chapter 38. Looking forward to the future. What's up, zombie duo? Nojiko asked as she lazily sat down at the desk in front of Zoro and Ace's, who both seemed to be asleep. Shut it, bitch, the key word was seemed. Ace was actually asleep, but Zoro simply had his eyes closed. Nojiko frowned as neither of the men paid her more attention than Zoro's rude comment. Tisk, you guys are no fun, she said, where's Sanji? Don't know, don't care, Zoro simply said, yawning. This sure is interesting, Tashigi said from behind Nojiko. The tattooed woman hadn't noticed her coming. Since Straw Hat left, his band of friends started to behave themselves more and became much calmer. Looks like he was really bad influence for them. It's nothing like that, Shanks disagreed, scaring the hell out of the two young women who hadn't heard him coming. They might seem calmer, but they're not who they are. Meaning? Nojiko asked, lifting an eyebrow. They are too used to Luffy being around, Sanji explained, sitting at the desk on Ace's right side. Simply put, they're confused and don't know what to do when that idiot isn't around to mess things up. Exactly what I was trying to say, Shanks nodded, satisfied. But aren't you the same? Nojiko asked from Sanji, lifting an eyebrow. Doesn't it feel weird not to have him around yelling for food every other second? A little, yes, Sanji said, but unlike those two, I'm not an idiot. I know what's bothering me, which is why I know how to deal with it. You do realize we're not deaf, don't you, curly brow? Zoro asked, cracking an eye open, or are you too stupid to realize that? I know you're not deaf, Marimo, Sanji said, and I also know you're too stupid to fully understand what I'm saying. What was that? Zoro asked, glaring at the blonde. You didn't hear? Sanji asked, shrugging, looks like you're deaf after all. Why you? Zoro started, vein popping, but was interrupted with a fist to his and Sanji's heads. Knock it off. Isn't that Nami's job? Shanks asked with an amused smile as the two guys sat unconscious at their desks thanks to Nojiko's fists. She ain't here, Nojiko pointed out, and shouldn't you start the lesson, teacher? As Shanks was about to answer, he heard a loud yawn, seeing Ace's head raise from his desk. Morning already. No, the geography class, Nojiko corrected, making Ace bang his head on his desk. Damn, he muttered, I should have just stayed asleep. But you didn't, Shanks said, so take your book and pay attention. Ace sighed, knowing that this would be a long day. XXXXX. It sure feels weird to not to have to protect my lunch every second as I eat, Usopp mumbled as their usual group sat in one of the classes, eating their lunches. It's been 3 months, get used to it, Zoro simply said. Everyone knew that the swordsman wasn't used to it either, but no one dared to say it out loud. When do you think Luffy-san will come back? Kaya asked. She and Luffy had never been close, but she'd have to be blind to not notice how his absence affected the others. When he feels like it, Zoro said, or when his dad gets tired of him and sends him back. I'm surprised he hasn't done it already, Ace said, getting curious looks. Don't get me wrong, he's okay and a very patient man, but well, even he has his limits. Obviously, Sanji said, Luffy's a pain in the ass to anyone, even to the most patient people. No kidding, Koza agreed. Vivi shot him a look, asking, aren't you guys going a bit too far? Just being honest, Ace said, and it's not like it's entirely bad thing. I'm sure Luffy's stubbornness has given us all something, no? Yeah, Koza agreed, a headache. Everyone, including Ace, laughed. That too, he agreed, but that's not quite what I meant. I think we can all more or less catch on to what you mean, Nami said. Especially you, Koza said with a light laugh, causing himself to get hit. What? Exactly what do you mean by that? The young woman hissed. The others rolled their eyes at the two as they argued, knowing that out of all of them, Nami seemed to be most bothered by Luffy's absence. XXXXX. Nami walked home alone, for Nojiko had gotten out of school an hour ago. Before Christmas she had enjoyed the walks home alone, mainly enjoying the silence, but now they just made the empty days longer. It's not like she was bored or sad all day, it was just quiet, lonely times like these that made her realize how much she missed Luffy. Maybe I should have asked him not to go, but then again, if he had listened then he'd probably be regretting not going on, as he'd say it, on an adventure. Nami reasoned with herself. On one hand she would have wanted Luffy stay, but on the other she didn't want to hold him back from his dreams, since I know how that feels like. It was not a nice feeling, more like a suffocating and trapping one. She didn't want to end up causing that to Luffy. Love sucks, Nami decided as she opened the door to her and Nojiko's apartment. I'm home. Welcome back, Nojiko called from the kitchen. You got a big package from the mail today, I took it to your room. Thanks, Nami called, a bit surprised. She hadn't ordered anything so someone was sending her a gift. Genzo maybe. Well, big sure is a right word, she thought as she got to her room, sweat dropping. The package was even bigger than her, there was no way Nojiko had gotten it inside on her own, must have asked few of the neighbors to help out. With few cautious steps Nami got closer to the package, observing it. It was square and neatly wrapped in orange paper with a green ribbon on the top. Let's see, she muttered, taking the ribbon off before peeling the paper away, revealing a huge cardboard box, obviously. Well, here goes. Nami thought, opening the box before letting out a scream and falling on the floor as a person jumped out, yelling, surprise. Nami, still on the floor, asked in shock, Luffy. Is that you? Yup, the boy said with a grin. They stared at each other for a long while before Nami finally decided to get up, moving closer to Luffy. And hitting him on the head. Hard. Ow. The young man shouted, what was that for? Don't do that. Nami yelled back, how did you even get in here? Your sister opened the door, Luffy said, getting hit again. That's not what I meant. Rubbing his head, Luffy asked, then what did you mean? Nami, about to yell again, paused. What did she mean? She muttered, I mean, why you came back so fast, why are you here and why were you in a cardboard box? Couldn't you just have jumped out from my closet or something? Nope, Robin's already in there, Luffy simply replied. What? Nami yelled in shock, pulling the closet doors open and revealing the raven-haired woman, who giggled, saying, "Pardon my intrusion, but I had to see this myself." Nami sighed in defeat, for one reason or other not wanting to argue with the older woman. "Okay," she said, turning to Luffy, "then why didn't you hide under my bed?" "Only room for one," a voice responded from under the bed, and second later Sabo's blonde head slid into sight. "I was expecting a more romantic reunion, you guys." Unlike Robin, he actually got hit. Letting out an irritated sigh, Nami asked, "Okay, what's next?" Ace listening in honest behind the door. "Actually, it's just me," Nojiko said and opened the door, sticking her tongue out at her sister. "Deal with it." "I suppose it's time for us to leave the kids alone for a while," Robin said, giving Nami a small smirk. The younger woman smirked back, saying, "You know, even if you're old, my sister and that lover of yours who's under my bed aren't much older than us." Nojiko and Luffy burst out laughing and Sabo went red, muttering something no one could understand. Robin's cheeks got some color, but other than that she maintained her poker face. "Well, like you said, we should leave them alone," Sabo said with a cough, crawling out from his hiding spot and standing up, helping Robin to push the still laughing Nojiko out. "Have fun." "Assholes," Nami muttered after them, turning to Luffy, a bit awkward. "So, why'd you come back already?" Luffy shrugged, saying, "It was kind of boring to explore all those places alone, so I came back." "Boring Nami asked, crossing her arms with a small smirk, deciding to mess with him a bit, or maybe someone's just a bit scared of going to explore on his own. "I'm not," Luffy said, way too hastily. To her surprise, Nami found out that her attempt of a joke was actually the truth. "I just don't like to be alone. I'm not scared." He smiled, adding, "And it's nicer to go on an adventure in a group." "Right," Nami said, suddenly remembering something, about what you said at the New Year's party." "Oh yeah," Luffy said with a grin, "wanna go right now?" "Sure, why not," she said, not really surprised to see Sabo and Nojiko backing away as she opened the door. "Eavesdroppers." "What?" Nami snapped at them. "Nothing," Sabo said innocently. "You two have fun," Nojiko said. "And if the need comes, don't hesitate to use protection," Robin called from the couch. Nami's face went deep red and a quick look to Luffy told her that he didn't get what the raven-haired woman was saying. "Well, it was less awkward that way. I swear I'll get back at her one day," Nami thought as she and Luffy walked out of the door. Looking at the boy walking by her side, she knew they'd be spending a lot more than just the rest of their time in high school together, and that was a future she was looking forward to. The future where they'd go to the Red Line and beyond it. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is In His Shadow by Mikila. The end.